Well, you did mention that you saw some films recently that you'd like to talk about.
I saw The Brutalist and I saw Brave New World. I wish I had done more research. Well, for both, really. But yeah, I mean, I have a
Don't
lot of
worry, I
thoughts.
did.
Okay, excellent. The Brutalist especially feels like it could benefit from a lot of research. I don't even know that much about architecture, first of all, but you don't need to
Right.
tons to talk about. But yeah, I mean, it seems complex and pretty like jam packed with stuff to talk about. And then Brave New World, to be honest, I've just been so out of the loop with Marvel. I don't think I saw any of the trailers or anything. I don't think I even saw any of the posters because
Wow.
I
They spent like $150 million on marketing only for you to tell them that.
yeah, and
However, I will say, isn't that a good thing? Because the biggest thing people are complaining, one of the bigger things people are complaining about, is the marketing.
yeah,
And like it would have been more beneficial if you didn't know that Red Hulk was in this.
yeah, absolutely. That's what I was thinking, and that was kind of the first thing I thought when he had that first almost transformation. I was like, oh, I wonder if they put this in the trailer because they'll do that so much. I don't know if they used to do that in the past, but I feel like that's just become so tiring where they'll use something like that, to garner attention and you feel like it would have been better left alone. It was
So,
yeah.
so as you may or may not know, Hulk is my favorite Marvel character, and I read his comics. I have the essential comics, the old ones, and I've read a lot of his comics. And so I've known my whole life about a lot of these characters because these are Hulk villains. Red Hulk is a Hulk villain, and it's always been common knowledge to me that Red Hulk is Thunderbolt Ross. Like that's not a secret to me. And so one thing I was curious about is how many people went into this movie not realizing that Thunderbolt Ross was the Red Hulk. And I was talking
Okay.
with my dad about it. My dad knows because obviously I told him
Oh yeah.
a lot throughout the years. Uh, but my curiosity, so did you not know he was Red Hulk?
Let's see. I really don't feel like I can remember accurately because I might retroactively like reframe things. I knew that he was going to be some sort of villain and have some sort of like I knew he would have some sort of transformation because of how it was all set up with the big brain guy talking about him being a monster in the lab. Maybe when and he would have these like angry outbursts and he was taking the pills. Maybe I didn't realize actually Hulk until the like that first scene, but I wasn't surprised at all either, I guess. Yeah, I just
Right.
knew it would be
But you
something.
don't know specifically that character. Like in the
No.
trailers, they heavily marketed Red Hulk. It was all about Red Hulk, and people don't they think that they shouldn't have spoiled the fact that Red Hulk's in the film, and that's a very particular big complaint.
Yeah.
And one thing I've been wondering with people who are not chronically online or don't know much about comics is how much do casual viewers not know who Red Hulk is? Because the movie hinges heavily on you not knowing that Red Hulk is going to appear in the film.
Yeah, I feel like generally Marvel films have taken the approach of no one knows about the comics or the audience doesn't know about the comics
Right. I
generally.
think Winter Soldier, no one knew that was Bucky.
Yeah,
And so
probably.
it could be true here, but the marketing made it probably pretty clear for a lot of people that Harrison Ford as Thunderbolt Ross is going to turn into Red Hulk, especially since Red Hulk looks like him.
Yeah, that was pretty good. He makes a good Hulk. I thought he
Yeah,
acted really well too. Yeah,
acting
I
was
mean,
very
we
good.
don't have to get into it all yet, but I was generally kind of just not really impressed with the whole movie, but his acting was definitely good.
It stood out, and it definitely shows that he doesn't care about nerd crap, but he is a good actor.
Yeah.
He's always been a very good actor. I will. So, what do you think of the film? What would you give it out of a 10?
Ooh, okay. Let's see. I have to give, I have to give all the caveats of like I'm slowly learning that I'm just not too much that sort of film guy. Like we grew up seeing all the like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings,
Mhm.
and Marvel movies past a certain age. I guess Iron Man was what 2008 was it? We were pretty young when they started, so we
Yeah,
grew up
that was
seeing
2008.
yeah, we grew up seeing like that sort of sci-fi type of thing, and I'm just now slowly getting into the world of films like that. I don't even know how to call them, but like the Brutalist or like the Pianist or whatever. And so I have to give that caveat, and then like Marvel, obviously, I've kind of fallen out of touch. I just don't probably care about the world or the characters as much anymore, like most
Uh huh.
people. But as a film on its own, or I don't know, it was pretty underwhelming to me, to be honest. Like, I feel like they had some pieces. They had some pieces. I liked the first half definitely a bit more, or at least like the first half, first 40%. There was, I felt like there was some solid action. I felt like the idea of mind control was potentially going to be interesting, and then I just kind of lost interest, or I don't feel like they really executed well. I feel like they had a decent cast. I like Anthony Mackie just generally. I don't know that much about him as a person, but he seems to have a lot of like screen presence, and I think he fights well. The fighting was well choreographed for him, I think. I know a lot of people are saying that. The whole plane scene fighting over the water, that was pretty cool. But yeah, like especially towards the latter half, it just kind of became much more simplistic to me. They had all these parts too, as I'm sure you know, and probably most people have seen it now. They were just pulled like right from Civil War, or I mean, Winter Soldier, or like Gus Fring. What's his name? Gianluigi Esposito? Is that his name? Giancarlo Esposito?
Esposito.
Okay.
That's Esposito.
Yeah. His character is just like a worse. I don't know. Everything just it felt like underwhelming, I guess. Like he was set up to be. He's a great actor. Everyone loves him. He was in the trailer, and you're like, oh, who's he gonna be? And he's gonna be some genius, or he's gonna be some whatever high techy mastermind, something
He's
powerful.
A part of Serpent Society.
yeah. And then he just ends up being like this old, like stiff fighter that literally just tries fighting Captain America.
I don't know. That works for me. I mean, he does this. I like the flashy move where he's like, "Huh?" He told me you'd make a speech, and then he like reaches the code and shoots backwards. I thought that was kind of cool.
That was kind of cool. But there's so many points where
Giancarlo Esposito is one of the reshoots. He came in a year prior when they already finished production. He was one of the big inclusions that they added to the film during their massive overhaul of the script during their doomsday prepping. Yeah. And he was tacked on very like we know that as a people.
What was the whole production situation? Why were there so many rewrites and stuff? Was it all
So I imagine what happened is that the movie effing sucked. So they had to figure out how to make it not suck. So the Tim Blake Nelson, who plays the leader, he said that he basically had to film his scenes twice. And I can see this too myself because his dialogue is very ADR'd at times. Not like to like a bad effect that like Madam Web did. But like he says things that are obviously like he'll like string sentences and then it'll get weirdly loud in ADR. Like he'll say "kill Captain America" when he was talking to.
Oh, you're right. I think I even remember that.
To Harrison Ford with Thunderbolt Ross, and it's like that is clearly not what he said. Also, that makes no sense for his character to say that. Why would he say that? So he's saying "kill," and who was he talking about actually wanting to have killed? And it's like there's things like that. Also, in the trailer, they showed Anthony Mackie during a funeral scene carrying a coffin. Who died in the movie that we didn't see? Was that his buddy? Was that Harrison Ford's character? We don't know that. And they probably won't want us to know.
That's true, yeah. I think I even remember some of that. Yes, you could definitely tell. I don't know how much was cut, or I don't know how much or which sections were rewritten, but it definitely just felt a bit fragmented. Like none of the supporting cast or supporting characters really felt like they had a huge role. I don't know if the tiny little gal, Israeli gal or whatever. Holy cow, she's tiny. That strained believability a little bit for me. She's like a little child.
I mean, she's a Black Widow, so they're like, why not?
Yeah.
Now, the other thing that was more unbelievable in that scene for me, though, is just straight up, he gets tased, and it's like she shrugs it off. This is a normal effing dude. And then when the soldiers get tased, they go down, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Oh,
like, don't let him get tased if the tasers don't work, because he's just a guy. And
yeah,
that was like that's actually probably literally the bottom of the barrel for the whole movie for me, is the fight in the prison, is because it's so unbelievable how effed Anthony Mackie is, and he overcomes it still.
Yeah, that's right. He definitely. I don't know how you feel. I feel like they definitely gave, and maybe this was always a Marvel thing with uh, Clint and Natasha, but they definitely give him and his little buddy, what's his name, Javier or Joaquin?
Joaquin, yeah.
Joaquin. They definitely give them, fairly superhuman
Plot
abilities, I
armor.
would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're like crashing into things at extremely high speeds and they're extremely, I mean, his suit and everything is pretty high tech. Like you see a lot of people complaining that he's more similar to Iron Man, which I feel like has always been somewhat true, hasn't it, with Falcon?
Yeah, I will say, Clint, when you see Hawkeye getting hurt, they make a point of showing that, and he
Yeah.
limps and he goes death eventually because of it all.
Yeah,
These
that's
are
how I
things that are
feel.
noticeable. He gets actually injured, and a lot of the jokes revolve around how he's just a normal guy
Yeah.
surrounded by all these crazy people, and it's like Anthony Mackie's no different. He shouldn't be able to do a lot of this. Like when he beats up that one huge dude, there is no
Exactly.
world where he should be able to do that. But like
Exactly.
obviously they're showing that he's more like Black Widow, where he has a weird amount of high pain tolerance for no reason. I mean, he literally gets stabbed in the abdomen by an axe. And it's
Yeah.
like he doesn't effing notice.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I fully agree.
It's bizarre.
And what did you think of the final confrontation?
Oh, great. I loved it.
Oh yeah.
So I will have to preface, because I've been hiding it. I knew I had to. Is I actually like the movie.
Oh, really? What? Okay,
Yeah, I
I
knew it.
what did you like? What do you
So
like?
I'm a great Devil's advocate. I understand people's criticisms for it. However, I am actually not a contrarian, I dare say, because I have the correct opinion. No, but I actually liked it. I saw it twice actually, but that was already pre-planned because I watched it with my dad, then with my uncle there too. He came to visit for the first time, and then
Oh nice.
I watched it again with my cousins they're younger and they liked it, and I do not see the problems that everyone else sees. And like the severity, I mean. For example, Madam Web is a hot mess, and this is nowhere near that level. And I've heard people say that, and it's like a bit deceptive. I don't think the reshoots hurt the film as bad as it did. They are very noticeable. But I don't think it hurts it as much as like say like what they did in Madam Web, where everything the main villain says is literally ADR to crap. I think it works competently. I think the best thing give it is that it's pretty safe and decent. I
Yeah, it was
don't
pretty
think it's bad.
safe. I feel like it just follows a lot of normal beats. I will say I was happy just to be in the theater again watching Marvel. I think maybe that's something I didn't expect. Like I've been frustrated in recent years. I kind of stopped paying attention. I
Mhm.
enjoyed Deadpool and Wolverine last year, and I enjoyed this one. Probably just sitting in the theater, being with these familiar characters, being in the world, and there was nothing like super offensive. Yeah, like I say, I just felt pretty underwhelmed. Like it was just fairly by the numbers, very much Winter
Right.
Soldier, like the big brain guy. Like they break into this vault, this
Leader. He's
abandoned
known as the
military.
leader.
Yeah, the leader. They break into this abandoned place, and remember the last one. What's the doctor's name that like comes alive on the computer? And he's like, I can predict
Oh,
everything.
right. Him. I forget his name.
And then the whole like killing everyone program, the whole Foresight Hydra, whatever it does that predicts people's probability of being terrorists or whatever and kills them. Like it felt like it was following
Zola.
those beats. Yeah, Zola. Um, felt like it was
Yes, I
following those
agree.
beats. And
However, I don't think it's too derivative. Now, yes, these are noticeable things with it. Obviously, his buddy gets mind controlled, and like it's obvious, and it's him trying to figure out who and why, which is a different question than what was initially proposed in
yeah,
Captain America: Winter Soldier. He's not necessarily trying to figure out the who and why. He's more trying to uncover Hydra and like why Winter Soldier's involved, because he doesn't learn that he's mind controlled immediately.
yeah,
And that's something he has to learn over the period of the film. Whereas they make it more obvious that he's mind controlled in this film. like
Yeah.
really
And I
evidently.
mean, it happens pretty early that kind of everyone around them, or at least the Israeli gal, the president.
Harrison Ford, like Thunderbolt Ross, immediately knows that he's mind controlled. He knows
Yeah.
that
Okay.
he's hiding that, and the
Okay.
question
Yeah. It
is, why
must be
is he
him.
hiding it?
Yeah. I feel like they try to maintain suspense with him, like in prison and different prisoners around him being killed. They try to maintain suspense with
Right?
her, like, will she suspect Captain America or will she not? They try to maintain suspense with Japan, but it all just feels, I don't know, it feels a little bit contrived to me. I guess I don't see that the big brain guy leader is
Peter.
actually like intelligently pulling any strings. I don't see that these are things that couldn't be resolved. Seems like they could all be resolved with just like a little bit more communication, or they are just already resolved. Like they already know it's not Isaiah. And I don't
So
know. It felt, that's why I
I
say I
have
like the
I
build
have
up
something to
more.
say. A
Okay.
big thing to say is that the leader is my favorite Marvel villain. I have a
See,
lot of
you
bias.
must be biased. Yeah.
I'm about to say I have a lot of bias because I saw in 2008 The Incredible Hulk, and he's in that. Tim Blake Nelson portrays a leader in that as well before he became the leader.
Oh, that's cool.
And I have yeah, have you never seen Incredible Hulk? Because it's basically essential viewing for
I
this
never
film,
have. I've
unfortunately.
never seen Incredible Hulk or Spider-Man 3.
Go watch Edward Norton's Incredible Hulk. I literally love it, and people don't like it. And I'm like, it gives you context on who this guy was, and as well as Thunderbolt Ross before all this, because it's a lot of saying and not
Okay.
showing, because
Is
they
that the
showed
one?
it back in 2008.
Okay. Is that with Arwen? Liv
Who?
Tyler?
Who's Liv Tyler?
Liv Tyler, she plays Arwen in the best trilogy ever, Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
It's
I didn't
okay.
know her name. I know
Okay.
who she is. Yeah, she's in that too. Which I was
Okay.
surprised to see that she came back. So that film was literally 17 years ago, Jesse. I have waited 17 years for the leader to come to the MCU, and they teased him back in 2008. There's literally nothing they could tease any earlier than that. It's the second film ever in the MCU, and I've waited so long, and they even got the same actor and everything to portray the character, and I've literally waited 17 years, a day wanting this to happen. And when they finally announced the leader was going to be the villain for this movie, my first thought is, why the f is Bruce Banner not the main villain, the main hero?
Oh yeah. True.
Because you have two of Hulk's biggest effing villains. You know, he's just not in the movie. I don't know what is going on behind the scenes that they thought this was a good idea. That's
True.
very frustrating for me,
Where is he now
especially
in universe?
the F no. Like he went to effing Sakaar, and he found out he has a son, and I'm like, what the F is going on? Why are we doing Planet Hulk and they're doing it off screen? What is going
Okay.
on? Like that's like the last I remember seeing him over in the She-Hulk show. He's
Yeah, I didn't
done a
even see
bunch of.
that, did I?
It's really bad, but anyway, I don't know how they could do this to that character because he clearly would make the film much better, in my opinion. But this is again my bias. Now, all these scenes that Anthony Mackie does would be so much more interesting if it was Bruce Banner doing it instead, just straight up.
Mm, that's probably true.
Everything he does would be more fascinating if he was like meeting because Tim Blake now the leader is his best friend. He actually was trying to help cure him in the 2008 film. And then he accidentally got Bruce's blood on his head, and that's what caused him to mutate into the leader as you see in the film. And
Ah. Wait, so in the
there would be
comics, is there the same phenomenon where it's like US government using and abusing them for like 30 years or whatever?
it was hinted at that he was sent to the rack that you see mentioned in the film prior, and that but it was not known that Thunderbolt Ross was using him for his own gain. That was not common knowledge.
Okay.
And also that's not how it plays on the comics. In the comics they're actually allies, and he willingly becomes a Red Hulk. There are differences from the comics also. But the thing that would make this so much more obviously interesting is if all these discussions were Bruce Banner talking to Ross, who he has actual reasons to not trust Ross. What when you think about the actions of Ross in this film, and people were like, "Oh, he did terrible things in the past." What did he do? All he did was hunt down the Hulk, and that's not a bad thing. People were on board for him doing that, and I don't know who wrote it like that, but they think that that's somehow the end of the world. He is not a bad person by that point in the film. He only becomes a bad person when it's revealed that the leader was someone he was using for his own gain, and that was not public knowledge. So why are people acting like the whole Harlem thing that happens with Abomination was his fault? He was one of the big contributors on why it was stopped. So
okay, wait, remind me Abomination. And then I got the sense early on that there was some backstory missing, or that, yeah, I was definitely missing that first Hulk movie, because I got the sense that he had shown some...
essential.
Okay. He didn't show any like war crime tendencies in the military or something like that?
No, he did not do anything bad. And this is the thing. This is literally a Hulk sequel. This is like, I think that's not really stated by a lot of people. This is not Captain America 4. This is Hulk 2 without Hulk. That is genuinely what this is.
So do you think you're biased because that's your favorite, or do you think you grade it on a steeper curve because it's your favorite and that it's indeed as good as you're saying?
Or do you think it's just me saying that I enjoyed it? I give it like a 6 or 7. I think it's actually in the middle of the pack in terms of Marvel. I'm not thinking it's like great or anything.
Okay.
I am biased. My bias is that the leader's in it after 17 years, and that pulling a lot of why I like it.
Okay. But surely they could have done him better. Like, I don't know.
Yes,
I know a lot of people are saying this, so this isn't new, but he just doesn't seem that smart. Or the technologies he demonstrates. Yeah. That acoustic thing he demonstrates, and then the one that just kills the soldier guy during training. That stuff seems like crazy, and it seems like if he's that smart, and if he's it seems like he could even just use simple technologies like that to wreak a bit more havoc, or to leave a little bit less to chance. Maybe not, though. Maybe his whole plan is...
Here is me getting on my soapbox to defend the leader a little bit. Not to listen, I'm a massive fan of Hulk. So I know that this is obviously not how the leader is in the comics. And he's written so much better than this. However, you have to understand, at least for me, is that I actually was going in knowing how he works, and I know his flaws. And I don't know if the screenwriters understand them, but he does have flaws, and they explain a lot of his behavior. Because think about what technically happens. He actually wins. He did something he wanted to do, and he succeeded at it. Now, is there a lot of problems with the screenwriters being not as smart as they think they are? Yes, I think that's true. I think obviously the leader in the comics is vastly smarter. For example,
it's just hard to write a smart guy, isn't it? That's a huge problem. Like, it's hard to write speedsters. It's hard to write super intelligence.
The problem with writing the leader in Marvel is that they don't have any of the technology fantasy, the fantasy technology he has. For example, he has this Phoenix Project thing, to where if he dies, he just gets a doppelganger made of him with all his memories. And that would immediately discredit the entire film. Why would he turn himself in and not just kill himself immediately? Because he could just do that. He's a very difficult threat in the comics. And he is very petty, and the thing he hates the most is when his probabilities are wrong. He hates that crap. So when Anthony Mackie breaks his probabilities, which is what sets him off to want to kill Captain America, that's very believable. And it also is believable that he would stumble a lot because he has the wrong idea about Anthony Mackie's character. He thinks that because Anthony Mackie hates us, which again I don't know why he does, but pretending he has valid reasons to hate him, like the movie states he does, is that he thinks that because he hates him that he'll allow him to do this, and so he doesn't realize that starting World War III is something not a lot of people like.
Yeah, right.
Now that's the biggest problem. Now, him doing the World War III plan is really effing funny, and is something he would totally do in the comics. And the fact that he almost got away with it is genuinely hilarious to me. And his backup plan makes perfect sense. However, it would make more sense if you followed the logic I explained, that he could just kill himself and then go get reborn again. But obviously, this is a more grounded version of Marvel, and it makes him look more stupid when these are things he would do, because he has the confidence in himself, and he has the correct flaws to explain it. He also likes to experiment with his probabilities and stuff.
That makes sense.
He in Hulk comics, he actually doesn't hate Hulk initially. He actually befriends him and saves Hulk's life. And he recruits him, and then like at a certain point, he kind of snaps and he's like, you know what? I kind of want to know if I can beat Hulk. So he just starts making a bunch of crap to see if he can overcome Hulk's infinite amount of strength. And like that's a lot of the bulk of his character is that he just likes doing stuff just to see if it works.
Just like a bored genius trying to try everything.
Yes, he very much is, because he literally invented immortality within the first month. He is way too. He is so absurdly smart. He'll put like handicaps on himself.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's very tough to write people like that. I feel like the only way you can do it is giving them some fundamental, like some fundamental like psychological fragmentation, whatever. I'm not speaking well. Where they're like crazy in a certain way, or obsessed with something, or can't get out of their own head, or like oblivious to, well, like in Sherlock or whatever, they make him oblivious to social cues or something like that. Like some fundamental handicap. I don't know. I feel like the whole Japan thing, isn't it just like the sort of base? Isn't this just like the most basic plan? Like you frame a government for stealing something. Couldn't they resolve that with just like a few talks or a few like
yes, I agree.
Evidence?
I think that the plan is not steal proof like he thinks it is. Okay, let's say, because obviously they chose Japan because it's not effing China. If it was China, it'd be a completely different story. So let's pretend like it's China, because obviously that's the thing everyone's harping on, that it's Japan. Japan would never turn on us. So let's pretend it's someone who could turn on us. It would explain a lot of it a lot better. Because China would be so adamant to not believe us.
And it's I guess it's very plausible that you get in this kind of like a Cold War era thing where no one knows whether the other side is telling the truth or not, and they're all extremely wary, and they all have like their missiles poised. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's funny that he did this because it's funny. That's what I truly believe about the leader, and that's why I like him so much. He's so smart. He wanted to, during his presidency, see if he could start World War III to make him look like the worst president ever. That is hilarious to me. Genuinely hilarious. And when that doesn't work, he throws a fit, and I think it's hilarious.
So was he literally just kept imprisoned for so many years? I wonder if they should have done something slightly more nuanced, like you're talking about in the comics, something a little more sympathetic, where it's not just such an obvious abuse from Thunderbolt Ross. And
Ross agrees with it, and mainly because during that time they're still hunting Hulk, and he thought it would be a good idea to help him get that so he could help with taking down Hulk. Okay. So obviously that plot line can't happen in modern day. I understand that they rewrote it so that they're enemies to each other. I think that's fine. It's not believable that this is a much more grounded film. Like they've always been more grounded. Hulk can't hold two hemispheres of a planet together while they tape it back up. So it's like it's obvious that they have to nerf these characters. Everyone's nerfed. That's just their reality. Leader has no way of losing against Captain America. He and you know what the thing is, kind of ironic. He does win. He does get his goal done. He does discredit him very easily, Mike. And it's like he's just a bit silly and people are questioning it because obviously the writers are not that smart.
Yeah. Though it is kind of a fitting ending, I guess. The world sees a more like unifying image of Captain America saving them, and then Ross steps down, which is cool, but yeah, he has to step down, and Leader gets his way in that sense. And I'm curious, so in the comics, how does the mind control actually work? Or is it consistent with the comics? Does he like get these soldiers in his lab and encode the flashing lights or whatever in their brains, and then when he triggers them anytime in the future, how do they know what to do? Does he give them commands like
the reason he knows how to do this to these specific people is because he has their psych evaluations. That is the reason he can do it. He has to have your information first.
Okay, but is he giving them commands like years before, or does he get them imprinted years before and then he gives them commands?
It's a bit lazy in the film. I mean, but like that's also very much the fantasy technology aspect of comics. You know, like how like all the stuff that Iron Man's nanotech does, or like Ant-Man, these things don't actually exist, and so there's a suspension of disbelief, especially with the comics,
I guess
You just
building
have
up.
to accept.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I guess in the first like third, I was wondering if it would build up to be something much more interesting or more psychologically interesting. Like Moon Knight. Did you ever see Moon Knight?
I did see Moon Knight. It was decent.
Okay. Yeah, I actually liked it. I definitely liked the idea of it, and I think I liked the show more than probably most people or most critics. And that sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
I feel like Marvel could go in that direction sometime if they wanted to sometimes. Um and I was wondering if it would shape up to be something slightly more like that, but I feel like especially the latter half it just became more of a humdrum like, oh, these guys will start attacking you, you punch them till they're unconscious and then you move on.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm very curious what the reshoots were for because obviously the leader was more of a soul focus. I do
Yeah.
not. Obviously, Esposito was not in the film, so they added him. So that means the entire first act is different, and the plan
Okay.
was completely
Oh
different.
yeah. So will the
So,
serpents be anything in the future?
it's funny because back with Civil War, when they announced it, they announced Captain America Civil War. They didn't announce it as Captain America Civil War. They called it Captain America Serpent Society, which was a joke. That was never a thing. But Serpent Society is kind of what you saw what Esposito's character is. He's a part of that group. I am not that familiar with them outside of the literal one thing I just told you.
Okay.
But they are relevant to the comics. I could safely imagine they're like the modern day Hydra. I think.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
do
yeah.
not read Captain America though. But I do read Hulk, and I'm still annoyed by the whole Hulk thing that they didn't have Hulk in his own effing movie.
Yeah, that's a bummer. It would have been cool.
It's clearly Universal's fault. I don't know what Universal's on. They're like smoking some really special crack.
I felt I did not like the finale. I like the
Oh,
the
really?
smashing the White House was kind of cool. The jumping, it was cool to see him jump, but I just felt like he was pretty underpowered. Don't you think? I get the vibranium
Well,
wings and all
Hulk's
that.
underpowered. What do you
Yeah.
mean? They've always been underpowered. The strongest
Okay.
Hulk has ever been was in the first Incredible Hulk.
Even for the films though, I felt like he was pretty underpowered. Like he was just stopped fairly easily.
I
And then
disagree. Go ahead.
I don't know. I do like that he brought him back with mention of his daughter. I don't know. Some people are criticizing that. I don't know what they wanted. If they wanted him to just like go
Yeah,
rampaging
well,
off.
what do they want? The other funny thing about Red Hulk in the comics is that he's immediately conscious of it. He's not the same as Bruce Banner, where he has to learn over time.
Oh, that's what I
Actually,
was going to ask. Yeah.
he immediately understands what's going on. Like this is a different interpretation of Red Hulk.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't know. I just felt like he was underwhelming to be honest. I like how they had him clap and stuff and cause the huge damage. Like
That clap. You might as well just clap my face. I wouldn't have cared. I loved it.
they haven't done that with
Casting.
Green Hulk as much, have they?
They've only done that in 2008. They have not done that since. They did it in the She-Hulk show, where She-Hulk did that for some reason.
Okay.
But like they have not done it overall. But the clap is legit. It's
That's cool.
awesome when
Yeah,
he
I
does
like
it in
that.
the movie, his movie.
I like that.
But
It
you gotta
just
watch
felt
it,
like,
man.
he's doing the clap and you're like, oh, this is like Hulk is back, baby. And then he's like throwing the podium and it's just going like 30 yards and knocking over a few chairs. And I don't know. I felt like I was just a little bit underwhelmed. It was kind of pretty with the cherry blossoms. I like that. I feel like Anthony Mackie or what's his character's name might not be the best.
You mean Captain America?
Well, okay, yeah, Captain America.
His name is Sam. It's Sam in the
That's
films.
right, Sam Wilson, right? I feel
Yes.
like he's not the most emotionally connecty guy, so it's kind of strange to have him be the one talking to Ross. But maybe it makes sense. Like they don't have a ton of alternatives, I suppose.
I think he's decent. Like, they actually had an episode of What If, where he talks down Hulk. At one point, I think he gives some pretty good speeches outside of the one where you hear him say that you need to do better.
You need to
Senator.
do
He actually
better,
is a really
Senator.
good. He's a
I-
really good friend.
I
think
feel like
he's a good guy.
he's a good guy. He's very charismatic. Yeah, no, maybe you're right. He's just a very like guy, soldiery, just kind of
Right.
upbeat. I don't know. He doesn't have that like emotional undercurrent, but maybe he does. I've liked him. I feel like he's a good actor. I don't know if I've seen him in much else. What else has he acted in? Do you think he's a good actor?
He was in Elevation. That was okay. He was in the video game movie, what video game show? I mean, with the cars. What's that one called?
I don't remember. Cars 2.
Wow, he's an 8 Mile. Oh, you know what the big one I know him from is $1 Million Baby, where he's like the ableist guy, and he's really good at that.
I have never seen that. I've heard people talk about it.
Yeah, it's funny that he's in that film, and he's like a actual piece of crap. He's playing one of the genuine worst human beings on film.
What is it about again?
$1 Million, dude, I can't just spoil $1 Million, but I'll tell you the one thing about his character. There's a guy who is a lower IQ'd individual who boxes by himself in the ring for free because he is disabled. And Anthony Mackie tricks his character in getting to the ring with him, and he beats him near to death, just because he wanted to.
Nice. So he's like,
he's horrible in that movie.
He's like a super soldier in that one too.
And then Morgan Freeman comes up and beats the crap out of him in like 2 punches.
Okay. Is it a comedy?
That's a great movie. Okay. No, it is not a comedy. It is by many people to be considered the only film more depressing than Schindler's List.
What? No, really?
I personally do not agree with that. I personally don't. I actively know people in real life that believe that.
I would say, man, I don't know if it was just my mood when I saw Schindler's List or if I was with a bunch of people, so I just wasn't as emotionally invested. I mean, it's obviously depressing. The movie that's probably, I don't know, maybe I haven't seen that many sad movies. I know Grave of the Fireflies really was depressing.
That was, the other one. Yeah. So my number 1 and 2 are Schindler's List, then Grave of the Fireflies.
Okay.
That's my number 1 and 2 most depressing. And then I would say $1 Million Baby is definitely my top 10. Number 3 for me is The Champ. And The Champ is such a effing cheating film. Mother effing film.
Cheating.
It cheats. It
takes advantage of your heart.
It doesn't cheat as much as $1 Million Baby. That's for sure.
How does it cheat?
Oh, people know what I mean when I say that. Okay. But like you'll have to watch it sometime to know what I mean when I say it. I think they cheat.
They kill a dog. Do they kill a dog?
Oh, that's a good point. I think Old Yeller and Marley Me are pretty sad too. I disqualify them because they have dogs, so they automatically get 2 points less for me in depression because they're cheating.
You call that okay? Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, wait, did they have an alternative ending to I Am Legend where he survives?
Yes. Wait, why did you bring up that film of all things? I was literally thinking about it.
I was just thinking of the dog, and then I was thinking of what if they made the dog survive, and then I was thinking. I don't know, but I realized
the dog dies no matter what.
Yeah, true. I was just realizing I had only recently learned about the alternative ending. Oh, because we were talking about the
yeah.
What was it called last time? 28 days later.
Yes.
And yeah, the alternative ending to I Am Legend was pretty good. I actually liked it.
I mean, it's not that it's just good. It's just how the movie correctly is supposed to lead up to.
Yeah. Amen. But anyway, dogs dying. That's definitely cheating. Dogs. I guess John Wick. Does that count? No, because that's kind of just the entire point of the story. He's motivated by that.
Yeah, I don't think it's that sad. I thought Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was sad for me personally. No, you know what? No, scratch that. 3 is the most I've cried in any effing film. And I've counted. I cried 6 times. Exactly. Wow. My first watch.
I think I cried at Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I'm trying to think. I feel like I've become hardened or something. I haven't cried that much recently. Probably
I actually irregularly cry a lot.
You regularly do?
Yeah, I regularly cry during film.
That's how I want to be. I feel like when I'm in a more balanced state of life or when I'm in a more clear headspace, I can really immerse. And that's when I feel like films are the most moving to me. Otherwise, sometimes I'm just too anxious or too fragmented. But like, yeah, for me, it'll be things that tug on those like nostalgia childhood heartstrings. Like, well, I know you don't like this one, but Spirit, for example. Just because I'll remember all the young days. It's just so beautiful. And it was like my first exposure to so many things with like horses in the Wild West and the colors, and probably the first soundtrack that really made an impact on my life.
Mhm.
Oh, and then The
That's
Last Samurai. That gets my childhood memories going because that was my first introduction to Tom Cruise. And I was surprised
really.
and disappointed later to realize he's more of like a Top Gun, Mission Impossible type of guy. But I loved Last
But
Samurai.
those movies are also good. They're just good
Yeah,
for different reasons.
totally, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Ethan Hunt is a very interesting character.
No,
And
absolutely,
like,
absolutely. And
yeah.
like especially the third one, is it? With
The worst one?
the what's
No,
his
two's the worst
face?
one. My bad.
The blonde villain, what's his name?
You got gosh, I know who he is. He died, unfortunately.
Oh, that
Why do you
was
have to die?
I feel like they could have taken it in that direction and they have kept them more like I don't know what you'd call them. Blockbuster? No, that's the term I used last time.
Well, four is the best one. So his name was Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Okay, yeah, him. So that was 4. Like that was I really like Ethan Hunt in that role. And he does convey a lot of like intensity and emotion. It's just, Minority Report, Last Samurai, those are a whole other level to me. Even Oblivion, I like, I know it's kind of derivative, but I really liked Oblivion just for the simple romance theme, to be honest.
I believe in Oblivion's not appreciated. I think it's a cult classic when you see.
Okay.
Came out 2013. It is received poorly. I would have to imagine it's a cult classic in retrospect.
Yeah, I know I heard it was received poorly. That was also probably one of the earlier things I saw in the theater period. And like we
Have you seen
started
The
with
Firm?
Narnia. Have I seen what?
The Firm.
Oh yeah, The Firm. I like The Firm a lot for sure. Yeah, some of
And
the
he did a lot of
earlier.
good running.
Yeah, yeah, right. What were some other early ones? I haven't seen Jerry Maguire. The Firm. Oh, is
He
it
did the vampire. Did he interview with the vampire?
Okay, I haven't seen that. A Few
Or
Good
he's a
Men.
villain in that. I
Oh,
believe. Few
Collateral.
Good Men is pretty decent. That's considered a very important film.
Yeah, I like that one a lot.
It was nominated for AFI. Did not get on the top 100.
Oh, bummer. Well, I shouldn't say bummer because I don't know enough. But let's see. What are other ones where he's a villain? Because Collateral, I resaw Collateral recently, like last year, and he was good in that. And he could play that role more.
Probably his most absurdly good role is effing Tropic Thunder. You could show that. You could show that movie to someone and they wouldn't realize that he's in the movie because he's like a chameleon in it.
So good. Yeah, I love that. The scene with the dancing or whatever, the phone call scene.
Right. You could
I guess
watch
all of
that
them
and not effing know it's him. It's so funny to me.
It's so funny. Yeah, that's right. I should just see that like every week for laughs. That one scene.
Oh man, it's such a funny movie.
Oh, Far and Away.
Man.
That's right. He was in Far and Away. He was Irish, wasn't he?
I don't know. He legally became Irish.
No, I think is that the one where they're like Irish and he's Irish and he moves to the U.S. and meets this girl and it's just like a basic like homesteading type romance drama something or other with Nicole Kidman.
I am not familiar.
It's been a long time. I think Mom and Dad showed us that one. I must have been young.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I feel like he could be more versatile, but he's definitely good at what
I like
he
him in
does.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh,
it was
yeah.
interesting to see him playing a pathetic person having to learn to not be pathetic.
That's right. Yeah, that is interesting. And I noticed this ending scene that he has. I mean, it's a pattern, I guess, across other films too. But with Emily Blunt, with Oblivion, and with Last Samurai, the ending is like, everything's resolved, everything's harmonious. He walks in and like they look up, they make eye contact, and then it cuts to black, That's a kind of cool pattern that I guess it always gets me. I like those romances. Anyway, not Hulk. Brave New World is terrible. No, I would say like a 4, to be honest.
Listen, yeah, 4 is fine to me. I accept people that give it a 4. It is not as bad as like half the bad films are bad. This is
the
nowhere
bad
near their level.
like Ant-Man. or
Ant-Man 3, effing Elementals, Mother effing Thor Dark World.
Dark
Like,
World.
these
That's
effing films are
right. Yeah.
terrible.
So of the bad Marvel films, or of all the ones that could potentially be listed as bad, I probably haven't seen the more recent ones. I did skim through Ant-Man 3 and it was terrible. Yeah, Thor Dark World. Even the first Thor probably I would rank. Would I
It's
rank
funny
it
because
below
your
this?
family liked Thor, and I think Thor's fine, but Thor Dark World, when you guys said you liked that one, I'm like, I
Yeah.
get it. The Loki stuff is fine, but like, it's literally the worst film. It
Okay,
is
well, Thor.
literally
This
considered
is
the
something you
worst.
have to know about the Take Kids. We saw. I think Narnia was our very first. There may have been one before that. Saw
Mm.
Narnia. I saw Narnia, and then the next year, Savannah and I got to see Prince Caspian. And then, we just weren't really a movie going family. It was probably after that, like
I'm aware, yeah. I turned you
Oblivion.
guys into a movie family.
Yeah. What year was Frozen?
Frozen was 2013.
2013. Okay, so probably Oblivion and Frozen were like the next ones I saw. And
I
then,
actually watched Frozen because of Savannah. I refused to watch it prior.
okay. Oh no, I'm lying. Avengers. Yeah, I did see Avengers. So that was 2012, wasn't it? Okay, so I saw Avengers and then Oblivion and Frozen, and then I think we slowly started seeing more stuff more regularly. Like,
Yeah, it's definitely fun for me because I would watch at least 8 times the amount of movies you guys
oh
have
yeah,
seen weekly back in those days.
yeah, yeah. So Thor was probably like the second Avengers or superhero movie we had ever seen, at least in a theater. I think we had seen Iron Man at home, but it was pretty cool. Also, I liked I'm really into mythology and fairy tale, so I liked kind of the overlap there. But yeah, retrospectively, I can see it's pretty bad.
Mhm. Yeah, Thor Dark World, not a good movie.
Not
But
a
you
good
know what is a
movie.
good movie that non people appreciate? Effing Hulk. So I'm gonna create some homework for you, Jesse.
Okay.
This is something you need to watch. And now I want to point out something. Hulk has some extremely good music in it. I want you to pay attention to the music.
Okay.
Feel the music. And listen, you gotta remember the CGI is a little rough because it's from effing 2008. But you gotta keep in mind that this is the Hulk peak perfection. Now, I do think there is a lot of peak perfection in Avengers. Like when says the "I'm always angry" thing, and he punches the crap out of that giant worm thing.
Right.
That's peak perfection too. That whole thing with Hulk, peak perfection. He immediately dropped off after that. He was never good again.
Okay. Hmm.
So know that me, as a viewer and lover of Hulk, he peaked in 2008, and the world said no, and I hated the world. And
Oh.
it is a much better film. Now, it is not perfectly. It's not perfect. The acting is rough with the Liv Taylor. Who what would you say was the name? Like the girl
Liv
from
Tyler.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
She's kind of effing terrible at acting, but this movie's special to me. So watch that movie.
Okay. Who do you feel like was a better Hulk or Banner? Who played it
They're
in that one?
doing Edward Norton,
Oh
who
yeah,
effed
you
up the
said that.
production.
Yeah.
Now, Edward Norton single-handedly effing ruined it because he's so difficult to work with, and he insisted on being one of the writers for screenplay, and he had a pseudonym.
Oh really?
Listen, 2008 is the best representation of what Hulk should be. It is
Okay.
perfect.
I'll
The Bruce Banner, it's like literally comic accurate to me, and how they portray everything, and like him, Bruce Banner doing everything in his power to not turn into Hulk. It's actually the interesting thing for me as a fan is that you root for him to not turn into the Hulk. It's seeing the ingenuity of him as he tries to avoid it, and when he doesn't, it's like a little icing on top when you see him effing up everything.
okay. I'll make it my homework for maybe for next podcast.
Yeah, it is much better than people give it credit for, and especially the music. The music does a lot of heavy lifting on what is already, in my opinion, a pretty decent movie. Got to pay attention to that music; it's really good.
Does he So he's hard to work with normally, is that known?
This is very well known. He is by far one of the hardest people to work with in Hollywood, and this is common knowledge in the industry.
Oh no. What role did he have in Fight Club?
He's the main guy.
No, but like directorial or writingly, was he involved?
I do not know. Let me look up his career and his credentials. I don't know if he'll include his pseudonames.
That
But
must
he
be
totally screwed things up. He definitely was hard to work with. They didn't want him, so they replaced him with Mark Ruffalo, which is like a punch him in the face moment because he really effed up his career doing that. Because I liked him in it. I think he actually makes a really good Bruce Banner. Mark Ruffalo, I don't know how old he is, but he seems like he's effing 70 somehow. I don't know. I don't know what it is about him.
He's pretty
He does
mellow.
not look.
Is Hulk
When you
supposed to
watch,
be mellow, or is Bruce Banner supposed to be mellow? Is Edward Norton mellow in the first one? Because I've always thought that was kind of an intentional thing where he's like this mellow guy and has to control his anger. And
Bruce Banner is athletic. He is literally the smartest person on Earth, at least comic wise at the time. He was literally abducted by aliens because he is considered to be the smartest human character. And so when I see Mark Ruffalo, I do not get that feeling from him. When I watch what Edward Norton did, I feel like he is probably one of the smartest people alive.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Ruffalo's definitely overshadowed by Tony Stark. They make him seem, and
for
probably
sure.
yeah.
That has always been a personal gripe of mine. It's clear that the in terms of who's the smartest, it goes Rocket Raccoon, then Tony Stark, and then probably a lot of people before you get to Bruce Banner. Unfortunately, Bruce Banner feels like he's an expert in Gamma, and that's it. Even though
Exactly,
this is a character that in the first Hulk movie knows like effing 8 different languages, has managed to run away from the FBI successfully for years, and he's just so smart, and it's like he feels completely devolved by the time you get to Avengers with Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, true.
I don't personally understand why that happened. Mark Ruffalo is also very much played for jokes. There's a lot of jokes at his expense for sure. And he definitely is not clued in like everyone else. His contributions also are not good. Like for example, in Endgame, when he's trying to do the time travel thing, it kind of just feels like a total joke. His contributions.
True. Yeah.
And then they made him professor way too early. I hate the professor. I don't like it.
Oh, why?
Because it's stupid. I mean, listen, I explained this really deeply to Savannah back in 2018, and I'll say it again what I said to her. When he becomes a professor, his character is over. There's nothing else to do with him.
He doesn't. Yeah, that's true. Like unless you make him backslide somehow.
Yeah, it's one of those things where by the professor is the end game for him, literally, and it's like he has so much interesting stuff to him. I like that. I like. There's points in the time where the Avengers can't stand Hulk, so they send him to an entirely different planet.
What's the
Bruce Banner is cursed with this.
What's the Thor Ragnarok planet sequence with Hulk? That's in the comics, and it's pretty well liked, isn't it?
It is part of Planet Hulk. It's very Planet Hulk inspired.
Right. Okay. So yeah, what other directions have they gone in the comics that you would prefer over the Professor, or what do they do after the Professor? Does he backslide
Let me look
somehow,
up the name. What is Grey Hulk called?
Grey Hulk.
Yeah, that is something that is a completely missed opportunity. Joe Fixit. Joe Fixit is one of the funner versions of Hulk. It is a gray version of Hulk. It's actually how he started. When Hulk started, he was gray, and he was a character known as Joe Fixit ultimately. But he, of course, is more commonly known for his green version.
Yeah.
Joe Fixit is kind of like in an Italian-inspired mobster type of story, where he works a lot with like people like Doctor Doom and the Mob and stuff. One of my most favorite fights is when he fought the Thing. When the Thing was in his pineapple form, which is a joke. It's an in joke. That's not what he's actually known. He just looks like a big pineapple, and it's funny.
What?
That is the strongest the Thing has ever been in the comics. And Joe Fixit is considered to be the weakest version of the Hulk. So Hulk had to use his wits to fight the strongest version of the Thing, and he totally effing beat him still. And I think it's hilarious. It is a classic, awesome comic of him beating the crap out of him with his wits and drowning him near to death and then punching his face in the dirt to rub it in. It's great.
Do you think it's hard to do in film?
No, not at all. Joe Fixit is with modern day CGI, you could easily do a Joe Fixit story.
Okay.
You could, especially
I
since we're about to get the thing.
see. I see what he's called the pineapple form.
Yeah. The thing, you could have the thing still fight him. What's always funny to me is the thing has a vendetta to try and beat the Hulk, which is impossible because you can't beat Hulk. But this is the one time he could, and he almost did. And it's funnier that he still lost.
What would you say are the times the Hulk has been most defeated, or what are the ways in which he can be defeated?
He has been defeated. There are ways to defeat Hulk.
Yeah.
Thanos notably can defeat Hulk, and there's a big reason for it. Hulk to Thanos. Thanos has always constantly been on record saying he is afraid of the Hulk, and that's why he always beats him first in a fight. Because the way Hulk's power works is that the more he gets angry and the more his survival instincts kick in, he gets infinitely stronger. Keyword infinitely. Unlike a lot of these other variations on characters that have super strength, Hulk literally can get stronger faster than Mjolnir can get heavier, making him capable of wielding it. He has done some really effing insane feats in the comics, notably during Planet Hulk, when the entire planet was cut in half. He literally went to the core and held both hemispheres of the planet together while they taped it back.
So his stories must be more focused on the personal psychological journey. I wonder. Wait, okay. First of all,
absolutely,
yeah, which I guess a lot of the comics are. But how? Okay, first we need to establish the constraints on the Infinity Stones. How powerful are the Infinity Stones, and what can Thanos do or not do? Like, when your average normie or whatever, like me, hears Reality Stone, I just think immediately, oh, it's over. They're gonna have to contrive.
I am
like,
not the most familiar with the Infinity Saga. I do know that Power Stone very believably beats Hulk.
Okay.
That makes sense. However, the Russo brothers are a bunch of douchebags because they went and specified that Thanos beat him without the Power Stone. I'm like, sure, I get it, but you didn't have to rub it in. Because yes, technically, Thanos can beat Hulk without the Power Stone. Because he has done that in the comics because he beats him before he gets too strong. If you can knock out Hulk before he gets too strong, you can technically beat him.
Okay, and then what about Iron Man's thing? What's it called? The missile from on high? Hulkbuster. Yeah.
That's pretty comic accurate, especially when you see what Iron Man is doing with it. He's trying to knock him out. Even if you knock him out, if you don't get him to reset, he'll just effing kill you. But like also it just works differently in Avengers. He clearly can't get infinitely stronger. We know that.
Yeah.
Ironically, the strongest thing we've seen him do is conclave the effing metal floor of the helicarrier thing while trying to pick up Mjolnir unsuccessfully.
Okay.
Now, even me as a kid, I've read enough comics to know he can pick up the effing hammer. So when he doesn't, obviously that's a choice.
Okay. So what you have to do is you just have to eject him somehow into space, which could probably be pretty easy, actually, if you're smart enough. Get him in some sort of situation where you can catapult him into space.
They've done that. That's how Planet Hulk happens. However, he can hold his breath for a really long time. I forget how long he can, but if he gets back down, you're in trouble. So they've had to do certain things. Also, a lot of people in the public don't have the common knowledge that Hulk does not turn into Hulk because he's really angry. There was a lot of older comics that they think that's how it works, but really the way it works is it's like whenever he feels endangered that it does. That's why you'll see a lot of
when his brain.
That's why there's
feels
a lot
like
of jokes. There's a lot of jokes, even in like Thor Ragnarok, for example. He like deliberately jumps out of the plane and then face first cracks into the effing Rainbow Bridge.
That's right.
Which is very comic accurate. That's something that would totally happen to Bruce Banner.
Okay. That's right. That was funny. I didn't like Thor Ragnarok, but I did like that.
Well, a lot of Bruce's humor is very depressing because he is often, during some of the more mature comics, has tried to kill himself. And Hulk will not allow it. They actually had a deleted scene in the original Hulk, where they imply that he was about to shoot himself and then Hulk stops him. And then in Avengers, they confirm that actually did happen because
That's
he
right.
mentions that he tried to kill himself.
Yeah.
He is a very depressing character, but when he says like things like, "Oh yeah, I've tried all these different things," he's talking to his buddy about it, like Rick Jones or whatever, and he's like, "Okay, cool. So you decided to try and make peace with?" No, I decided to try and get drunk and see if it works then. Which I gotta say, banger effing line. It still doesn't work, but it's still funny.
It's funny, man. He's an underappreciated character. Then, I mean, I feel like
He is.
through the Avengers, he's definitely kind of not an afterthought, but you definitely find even Clint and Natasha more interesting than him for sure. I think the average
Oh
person.
yeah, it's sad. But you got to remember, Hulk was way more famous than everyone.
That's right.
Other than Spider-Man,
The Avengers were a lot
biggest.
of kind of Yeah, that's right.
Iron Man was the C-list character that no one knew about.
Yeah.
People didn't care about the first Captain America movie. They thought, oh, but it's just a filler movie for the Avengers setup. No one cared about Thor. They cared primarily about Hulk and Spider-Man. And then we were taught to like these characters over time.
Yeah.
And because of that, Universal effed up everything. Because they own Hulk. And they've been such a bunch of whiny losers who don't want to make a deal with effing Marvel to make a good film because they think it's a high-risk thing. They don't think Hulk can make money because they've made allegedly bad films in the past with them, even though the 2003 version effing sucks. And the other one was just a bit disappointing because people couldn't stand that effing Lord of the Rings chick.
I do not know. I wouldn't say she's the best actress from what I've seen.
I think the biggest criticism, as me who loves that movie, it's her. Really? She is so terrible in the movie. I'm not kidding.
Does she say everything? Does she say everything in the same like soft, liltingy whatever voice?
Yes.
As in,
yes.
Yeah, okay, I thought so.
That's like the performance she's going for.
Yeah.
And when she did it again here, and I hear her on the phone, I'm like, wait, is that the same mother?
Yeah, exactly. She did it here. Wait, so what's going on? What's going on with Universal, Hulk, MCU, Hulk non-MCU?
It's just that Universal owns it. I don't know how it works licensing wise. Obviously, Disney own the rights to like marketing and other stuff, but they get permission from them to put him in the films, and they cannot specifically make a mainline Hulk film. Only Universal can do that.
But they could do a She-Hulk.
Yes.
Okay.
And this is something that even Mark Ruffalo has joked about online. This is actually very specifically true. Mark Ruffalo has gone on record saying that he talked with Kevin Feige about what he would want to do for a 3-act structured film for Hulk, and what they did was take Age of Ultron, Thor Ragnarok, and Infinity War and Endgame, and they made that basically the Hulk movie. His arc over those films is the Hulk movie.
Okay, I could see that. So do you think it's just a matter of money, or?
I don't know. It's incompetence. Just like incompetence. And they think that Hulk is risky to make money with. And I mean, it kind of makes sense. The way, because especially since he's now the Professor, unless you retcon it and have him go back to being regular Hulk again, it's like, I mean, but like it seems it's such an interesting character. He's a superhero who is trying his best to avoid turning into Hulk. And the military is hunting him down. And they're constantly effing up everything for him. And he has his buddy Rick Jones, who, by the way, Rick Jones is not in the movies, even though he is a fundamental part of Hulk's comics.
Okay, who's Rick Jones?
Rick Jones is the teenager / I guess adult in the future, right? He was a teenager that Bruce Banner saved from getting hit by the gamma radiation, and he gets turned instead. Rick Jones is the guy who is like his manager, not necessarily in the way you're thinking, but like he's a sidekick, right? And his job is to keep Bruce Banner from turning, and when he does turn, try and get him to manage. He's one of the few people Hulk will not attack, and he's one of the few people he trusts. And so he is a very important character because of that. And he is almost always with them. Yeah.
And does he have any powers or no?
He is a normal guy. I think he gets powers later, but he is mostly a normal guy. He's a kid, also not a kid. He's like a teen.
Okay.
He's definitely had powers before. I know that. I don't remember what they were because that was a part of comics I have not read, and they're not Hulk comics, I believe.
Okay. That
I think
is
it was there
very
from the
key.
very beginning.
And that's like a very good personal connection. But I can see how it'd be hard to write into the main the MCU.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mr. Blue, who again is the leader, he fills in the Rick Jones role in the Hulk film.
Okay.
You can definitely get a lot of vibes of him being like the Rick Jones figure for him, but like obviously with a leader flavor to him.
Yeah.
It is always interesting to me that the leader started out as being best buds with Hulk, and then he just like, I just want to f with him and just want to see if I can defeat him.
Do you think most other people have your interpretation where he does a lot for just entertainment because he's bored, experimenting?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
but like that's the nature of the comics, Jesse.
Okay.
Is that when you're seeing the leader come up with all of his BS reasons for how he can defeat Hulk, it's for entertainment. He does it because it's funny, and he's like effing toy maker.
I don't know. This feels kind of
Superman.
like a Conrad interpretation.
No.
Okay, I believe you. Yeah. It would have been cool. I feel like he just wasn't super compelling in the Brave New World.
Guys, I'm going on Reddit, even though Reddit's stupid.
What did you think of Sidekick Boy Joaquin?
He was fine. None of his jokes landed, and I wanted him to die to give some weight to the film. I mean, he fell so far.
He fell so far and so hard. We didn't have tons of investment in him yet, but I thought he would die probably. But actually, it's probably good. We keep him around longer, get some investment, get some more character branching interconnections with other characters. I feel like I've heard some people say they liked him or they liked their vibe, their chemistry. I feel like, yeah, his jokes didn't really land, or at least that first scene where he's meeting Isaiah, he just overdid it too strongly. Whoever wrote those jokes. It's just too on the nose.
My dad cringed very early on in the film.
Yeah.
He's like, he looked at me and like, this sucks. And I'm like, okay, let's wait. The leader's in this movie, Dad.
Did he end up liking it?
Huh?
Did your dad end up liking it?
He actually has the same exact opinion as me.
Really? Okay.
I think I like it more than him, but we both agree it's overhated.
I feel like it's just not one that'll stick in my mind at all in the slightest. Even, I would say even some of the bad ones had like their moments that compelled me more, probably. Mm-hmm. Even Guardians of the Galaxy 2, for example. No, we don't have to go into that again. But Guardians of the Galaxy 2 has some emotional moments that I appreciate. And what are some other ones that I mean, there's ones that I think are worse than Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Oh, what do you think of, I forget what you think of Doctor Strange? You don't like it as much as the family, do you? Okay, you do.
I think you guys might technically like it more than me, because obviously I have things rated really highly in comparison. Yeah. I do think it's better. I think both our families think it's better than the common opinion of the public.
Yeah, I think so. It's got some solid acting. Yeah, second one's not good. Let's see. Shall we talk about The Brutalist?
Yes, let's go ahead. All right.
Oh boy. Oof.
Talking about the runner-up to Best Picture winning. It's gonna, I think, lose to Nora.
Man, there's so much to say about it. I feel in some ways like I would need to see it again. I feel in some ways confused. No, it's just I really liked it. Probably, like most people, I did like the first part a bit more. It felt
interesting.
I don't know. I really don't. I have to see it again, you know? And it's one of those that I guess like Oppenheimer or like a couple others I've seen recently that I can't tell if it's going to become a classic or if like upon seeing it again, I'm going to feel like, okay, I've absorbed the story. It's made me think. It's been a nice challenge and now I'll move on. Or if it would be one that I would always come back and re-see. I can't really tell yet. I feel like... Yeah.
I do know it will become a classic when it becomes Best Picture winner.
That would be true.
It's either this or Nora at this point. But, yeah, go ahead.
I need to see Nora. It's a pity I haven't seen Nora. I feel like He gives a very good performance. Everyone gives a very good performance. Yeah, what's the best way to talk about it? I guess just running through like the obvious positives. The score was super good. I really like the score. I really like and you'll be able to correct me in my terminology and whatnot, but I just really like the edits or whatever you'd call them. Would you call it editing, cinematography, where it's, going through these montages sometimes with like the up close shots of certain tools and whatnot, cutting in time with the music, and then these like distant shots of buildings or nature scenes. And it just felt like it ticked a lot of boxes. Like it was a very intimate, personal story. It felt very rich and believable, like a biopic type
Mm.
believable character. And yet at the same time, it does this sweeping kind of picture, like these sweeping themes of America and the movement, all the movements going on in history, and this phenomenon between the rich and the patron and the artist. And I feel like it captured quite a bit, and I feel like it posed quite a few questions. Like maybe that was something. I don't know if it felt a little packed. It leaves a lot of questions open. I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place right now, but you probably know what I mean.
Yeah. I think there's more questions obviously in the second half where like the ambiguity of what happens to Guy Pearce's character, and as well as like what the actual point of the whole movie is, or the
Yeah,
main.
yeah, definitely that. The actual point of the whole movie, I feel like it touches on so many themes of like art isn't enough to sustain you. Art isn't enough to sustain you, and then her role in his life, like she's kind of an anchor for him and calls him forward to be like much more. I guess she's the kind of vigorous, assertive presence in his life, and she kind of grounds him in some ways. And yet also when she arrives, it's like things start going worse for him. Like she's a challenge in his life, and yet she's kind of the only voice to keep him like healthy or sane or to watch out for him. And
Hmm. I don't necessarily agree, but not so much because I have a reason to disagree. But like that's not what I was getting from her character, at least.
okay, what were you getting?
Um, I felt that Felicity's character is obviously, so I guess they are kind of an obstacle, but really it was more about the conveying of him not feeling like the protagonist in his own story in a way. He this probably helps in explaining Guy Pearce a little. He was being treated submissively by him and is just like treated as the second, not the main character in his own story. Like his work and his legacy don't matter to him as much as them. And Felicity is the one who ultimately confronts Guy Pearce about the rape thing.
Yes.
And a lot of the people around him care more about his legacy than he does. And by the end of the film, his niece is the one talking about his displays and his legacy, not him. And so the question is, why is it that he has lived his life and his experience, this really depressing experience and all the hardships he's overcome? Why does he not feel pride in himself? Why does he struggle to care? Because it seems like he just goes along with a lot of it throughout the film, and he has pride in the
Yes.
work he does, but he doesn't know how to challenge or overcome those that are his antagonists, basically. um his wife is interesting because uh she obviously has a lot of different problems and detriments that affect her, and so it now creates another need that he has to
Yes.
address.
Yes, definitely. But in some
And it's
ways
like,
she's definitely this motivating force, or she definitely demands better from him in his struggles. Like she sees his flaws, she forgives him, she tells him she's there, and she definitely calls him to to think about these things like his legacy or his purpose or his standing. She calls him to assert himself more, or
yes,
there's some
he
way
doesn't
in
feel like a
which
need to. It doesn't
yeah,
matter for him.
yeah, that's interesting. There's some like gaps. There's some ways in which it omits certain things or leaves like this question hanging open or leaves this speculation for the audience where I don't know. Like I remember it'll have the camera on certain characters' faces while other characters are speaking, and you'll be seeing more of the reaction. Or it'll have
Hmm.
what? It's true that he doesn't really seem to. I don't know if we get a super detailed glimpse into what he exactly thinks about architecture, for example. Like, he's being very strong and assertive about certain details with the building or about how the light will fall, but you don't really get an interpretation until the end, for example, when his niece is speaking. And
Yes, and that's so important
yeah,
because it's her interpretation. We don't hear it from him.
yeah, exactly. So,
It's
yeah,
there's a lot of questions about his character's motivations because he seems fine going with the punches and like he accepts things freely. He doesn't like, for example, challenge when when he was living with his friend, his wife accused him of trying to court her. That's obviously a lie.
yeah.
And he doesn't stand up for himself.
Yeah,
He
that's
just
strange. And the
takes it
moment where he
all.
most stands up for himself is like the very beginning before, like when they have the commission, the first commission, and then they get like yelled out of the house or whatever. That's like the only real moment you see him assertive is when, the ties are supposedly cut and he's just leaving. And he has these moments where he's like sure of who he is. I mean, he is sure of who he is through the whole thing in some sense, isn't he? He's always certain in his vision. He's always unconcerned with conforming. Like his cousin, obviously strong contrast with his cousin who like has the
Mm.
American accent, is
Yes. Yeah.
married to the American gal, and is like doing this furniture that he considers, that Laszlo considers boring or not beautiful at least. And yeah, there's this sense in which he's so rooted in his identity, and his cousin seems jealous of that, and his cousin seems to admire him for that and wants to kind of show him off, and then also wants to show off his Americanness to Laszlo, and is, yeah, I mean, fundamentally insecure in that tension. I guess a lot of
Yeah.
the men around him are insecure.
Oh, for sure. And you also keep in mind the time period. He's Jewish and in a time where people hate Jews. So
Right.
it's not ever easy. And it's like Guy Pearce is so deceptively evil in the entire film. And if
Yeah.
it wasn't for the rape scene, it probably would be a lot more hard for people to
You think
notice.
so? That was going to be my question is,
I think
did
so.
that push it like just a little too bluntly? Was that like the final? I think it was good. It surprised me. It did surprise me, and I was feeling pretty.
If it didn't happen, how could you have him lead to killing himself? You needed something
Yeah,
like that to make him
yeah,
feel the true guilt of him being a bad person. Because Guy Pearce is, oh my gosh, there's a lot you could say about his character.
yeah. He did
He is
well.
so interesting. He is a very unique type of evil. The kind of person who someone says something at a yard sale is 25 cents, and then they try to argue, could you bring it down to 20? And I'm like, what the F? That's like inconvenient to you, me, and everyone. And then they just do it because they want to assert power. That's the kind of
Yeah,
guy he is.
yeah, yeah. And it
He
comes
lives
from
for
this
power.
inner smallness or whatever, where he feels well, like the whole. Oh, I find our conversations intellectually stimulating. Like he's so intent on
He's
asserting
full of
that.
it.
And the other guy, yeah, the other guy kind of finds it funny or bemusing. Laszlo does. And it's this guy who, I mean, he admits at some point, doesn't he, that he doesn't have the creative spark or whatever, but he has to dominate every room. He has to be behind every sort of project or tick every sort of box, like with the port, was it, or whatever liquor he's collecting. And
Yes.
and he feels like empty inside, and he isn't really a part of anything convicted. And he's what was it you just said? Oh man, I forgot.
He's hungry for power.
Hungry for power. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Like, obviously, a lot of people are reading heavily into themes of just what capitalism and.
I think that's the misplaced. I think I've heard that a lot, and I think that first of all, what is the capitalist commentary? There's nothing about capitalism in the film. Just because is impoverished does not mean it's a commentary on capitalism. You could be impoverished in a communistic society, for example.
Yeah.
It is not commentating on capitalism. It is commentating on power dynamics and more especially for his character for being taken advantage of and him thinking that it's worth it so that he can make his passion. And he
Yeah.
lets himself be abused.
Which,
So
yeah. Which is so interesting. And I was thinking recently about that because I think I was reading about Michelangelo. Um, and that's been such a phenomenon through history. Like, in order for the creatives to do their work, they really just have to look for patrons. And the patrons are usually, or very often, these other sorts of figures like industry, or government, rulers, kings. And yeah, I mean, it's very interesting because this jealousy emerges, and then he's dependent on him to be seen as artistic or charismatic or meaningful in some way, and yet he hates him and he calls him a leech, and all this bitterness builds up, and then the rape. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually kind of helpful for me too, because my initial watch of the film, I was very confused by the final line in the film where his niece says it doesn't matter about the journey, all that matters is the finished product, or however
The
she words it. And
destination. Yeah.
I had whiplash because I was like, that has never been true. No one typically says that's the message of their film, especially when you look at the film being as long as it is. For them to claim that after all that he went through is absurd. And I initially incorrectly interpreted the be like, I was confused, like, how is that the message? And then I realized that's not the message. It's just what she thought it was. And
Yeah.
she isn't taking to account that the journey was effed up. And like he has a lot of regrets. He had so much pain, both literally and metaphorically, and he never got over it. When you don't really have a reason to think he got over it, and it's kind of a depressing ending because of that. Because he really like what he's supposed to be remembered for all these buildings and all the horrors he went through is meaningless now.
That's interesting. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I was wondering what your response would be, because it feels like you can interpret it in a few different ways, or in a couple different ways. And I'm not sure what the majority opinion is. I haven't watched like many reviews or whatever. But yeah,
Sardonicast covered a little.
What did you say?
Some interesting. Sardonicast covered it a little bit.
Okay. I
know
they Man-Carrying Thing really liked it.
Yes, they mentioned how I'm trying to remember. It's a little fuzzy. They're definitely talking about about the brutalism and stuff and what it meant culturally. Like that's a world I'm not familiar with, which they shockingly were.
Huh.
I'm not familiar with brutalism. However, what they did mention about brutalism is that it's kind of like you know how it's like stone and stuff, and it's built to endure wars and stuff. That's kind of like what brutalism ultimately culminates into, something that'll last forever.
Okay.
And so
I did a bit of reading just after seeing it. Otherwise I'm not familiar, which is a pity, because yeah, I feel like I've just always hated it, to be honest. Like me, I'm like more of a Renaissance, Baroque, whatever. I love the Gothic. I love art and elegance, and I like the little gargoyles in the corner. I like, what they symbolize, and I like all the religious symbolism that's like not very ornate, but at least rich. And brutalism, to be honest, I've just always hated. And I feel like it alienates the human from nature. I feel like it alienates the human from each other, from any sort of purpose or narrative, or higher power, if you're talking about religion. But yeah, upon reading, it was like, okay, some stuff with being very cheap and easy to mass produce after the war, and then some stuff with like focusing on honesty and equality among people, wary of the idealism that had led to certain, elitism that had led to the war. So sorry, what you were saying,
it seems like the brutalism is not necessarily exactly the same as like the typical belief in what the architect, like what you were saying.
Okay.
It's like, because even in the film, they made a big point of how his buildings are some of the few buildings that survive. And that's a big motivator to him, and it's a big metaphor for himself, is these are buildings that can endure a lot and stay standing. And it's like, you can't burn that building down, basically.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a big
monologue.
metaphor for himself. Yeah.
Yeah. His monologue to Van Buren in the, I guess, kind of the first monologue, when Van Buren asks him why architecture. I wasn't sure I understood it completely, or I wasn't sure it was the best written. It felt a little bit like he was saying nothing. But I'm not sure what you thought about that, and I would probably have to see it again.
I think he's intentionally obtuse, because he wanted to see what Guy Pearce would say, and he said, I found it intellectually stimulating, which to him says he's full of crap.
Yeah,
because he said it twice now.
Yeah.
Now, how intellectual you and me and people who are the casual audience when they see it, there's a lot of layers to a lot. The person writing this should have wrote the leader because he's super smart. This is a world they understand with very complex characters that you might not necessarily understand their motivations, especially Adrian Brody, who is a very complex character who has motivations that seem contradictive, especially when you get to the ending and the overall message heavily contradicts the entire journey of the film. And so it's hard to gauge what does he want to do? He wants to build, and he wants to build something that'll last forever. Because he feels like it represents his own strength to get it done. Like his whole goal, as soon as he learns that he has now the chance to build again, is he will do anything and everything to do it. And he even becomes kind of a douchebag along the way. And he's horrible. He's obviously a horrible guy. Guy Pearce is a horrible guy. And he fights to get this building made. And he overcomes so much to do it. And by the end, when he gets it done, it doesn't even feel satisfying. Because obviously it has that time skip. And you don't even technically see it get finished. And you see, oh, look at all these different works he's done. And it's like, well, how much more trauma did he go through to make all that stuff? He lives in Israel. That place is not fun. Yeah. And it's like, he's in a wheelchair and he's literally incapable of speaking. And it's like he lost his voice because he's allowed himself to go through so much suffering.
Yeah. I wonder, how are most people... So your interpretation of the end is... What would you say exactly?
I think it's bleak. I think it's bleak. I think he chose incorrectly to pursue his passion and sacrifice himself and his family too much, and he learned too late to leave.
Yeah, that's definitely plausible, and there's definitely at least some element of that for sure. I don't know. I was wondering how most people would interpret it, and then how many people are commenting on the fact that final speech is her interpretation and, indeed not his or misleading in some way, which I know a lot of people are saying that, and it's probably true. I probably agree. But so after the rape, I was feeling pretty devastated or a little devastated. I was like, oh no, like this has been bleak and building up towards more and more bleakness. And now this, and he still works for him. He still submits. And I was wondering, are they going to have some final point where he snaps? Are they going to have some point where he overcomes the guy, or demonstrates his superiority in some way where the guy's hollowness or the guy's emptiness is exposed before people? Are we going to bring in like the public somehow, more journalistic type stuff, and he's going to get a lot of glory? I was wondering what direction it would go. And then for her to go for her to have that pain, that spasm or whatever, and then him to give her the heroin
due to her disease.
Yeah.
Oh, the heroin thing. Yeah, that was a big deal.
It was very interesting. It was interesting for me that they like re-found their intimacy there, and then things seemed to look up a bit and seemed a bit healthier. And she convinced him to move to Israel. She goes and confronts the guy, and it felt like, so interesting. So clinging to his art and suffering, the shame of all this abuse and blah blah blah.
Oh my gosh!
And then
I just realized that.
What?
It's all about heroin. Dude, doesn't that make... Listen, so he's obviously addicted to heroin, and him doing this because heroin makes him null the pain and stuff. Him dealing with all of Guy Pearce's crap is like him being on heroin.
Yeah, and he has to do the art. Yeah, it's anything for the art.
It's all connected.
But then in the end, even in his lowest or weakest point, he's still who he is. He's still this architect, and he reconnects with her. They move to Israel. And later, years later, you can see that his legacy has endured. And supposedly, it seems like they leave us with the impression that they had like a good marriage, or at least something of a unified life, right? With reconnecting with their family or the niece.
Right.
And I don't know. I felt like it was interesting. It just leaves you thinking. I felt like a little more at peace by the end, because it's like he was able to transcend. But so the destination journey thing. Yeah.
I feel like really bleak.
I feel like you can interpret it in the way of like the destination is worth whatever journey. If you have your eyes fixed on this art, then no matter what happens, like you're honoring your identity and you're okay.
But that's
Or it could be
weird,
kind of the
and
opposite.
that's weird, Jesse, because no one ever says that. No one says, "Oh, the destination's all that matter." Now, obviously, when it comes to finishing a product, yes, like it makes sense. You want to finish a product, but like no one, morals of stories don't say the journey's irrelevant.
Yeah,
That is
absolutely. Yeah,
extremely irregular
that's
for
true.
that to be said,
Brandon
because
Sanderson, Journey
your
Before
life is not
Destination.
just the ending. It's
Totally.
not just the ending.
Yeah, so many philosophies are about being in the moment, taking every step rightly. So many stories are focused on, yeah, journey before destination. Ends don't justify the means.
And
Absolutely.
there's like other subtle hints to there, like the concept of not being quite right, like the credits themselves, and they're literally diagonal, and
Yeah.
like there's all these weird things that they do along with that. Like, for example, when you first see the Statue of Liberty, it's effing upside down, and that's obviously not quite right.
Yeah.
And like the film itself is bled because it doesn't use a lot of blue, and it creates a more anxious feeling to the film,
That's
because
right.
you're lacking the blue light bulb, and all these
Okay.
things combined paint that there is something very strange going on. Like Guy Pearce, there's something strange about him, and you can't necessarily put your finger on it initially, on how much of it is just him being a douchebag versus him just being actually evil. And like, there's all these different things that happen throughout that makes it very like almost like an unreliable narrator, where they're trying to convince you that it was all worth it. Like that's what you feel.
Mm,
You feel like it needs to be worth it, and
definitely.
for
Yeah.
his character, it's not. Like by the end of it, yeah, maybe he does have a good, happy life with his wife in
Maybe they leave it a
Israel.
little bit open.
I think it is meant to be open. But I also think that when you have a character speak like their monologue at the end about their life story and then ends with like it's about the destination's all that matters, it makes you question if he even believes that, because it doesn't seem like he would, because of all he's been through.
Yeah.
And it makes and it's bleak because you it's concerning that he's not being heard in that moment and that he's not speaking for
Yeah, this
himself,
is interesting.
and all that is being judged about his life is his final product and not the hardships he's gone through.
Yeah. They do leave it kind of open. His as they're wheeling him up and you're seeing his profile like hunched over, you're like, "Oh no, okay, so this is an old like yeah, kind of sorrowful man." And then they do give that final shot when she like before she says the quote or whatever, she looks at him and he looks up and his face, if I remember right, there's a little bit more optimism there. I don't know. I have to see it
I
again.
don't remember. I'd have to see that moment again when it gets to streaming.
Yeah.
But I mean, it could be happy. I don't think it's like designed to be this. It's obviously not designed to be very happy.
Yeah.
But like, look at what the final credits song is. It like the lyrics goes one for you, one for me. And it's like, yeah, he did give a lot of one for thems. And it's like, what was his one for me though? It's
Mm,
like, I guess the legacy of it all, but like, it doesn't. Like, that's the whole point, at least to me, is that it doesn't sit right that that's the transaction that you
yeah.
go through all that crap and people remember you for the effing building. it's
Yeah.
like,
I was also
it's like,
curious. I don't know. I was curious to see more. Maybe not. I mean, this is one of those things they could have left open ended on purpose once again. But his thoughts regarding like specifically Christianity or the symbolism of the cross, I feel like
mm,
they leave you to wonder about these things. You know, like he mentions first, like you want me to build a chapel or a Christian thing, and then you see him at synagogue a few times, but you don't really.
mhm.
I don't know if you get a strong sense of his religious conviction or what he thinks of the whole community or what he thinks of the church or
That
E
is
even
interesting.
how prominent he is in America. I guess he's just not very, and he never
I
becomes.
think it all is meant to represent that American culture doesn't align with him and he is unwilling to conform to it.
Yeah.
He's willing to make the building because he's passionate, right? And obviously it's a part of the conflict on can they even trust him because he's a Jew. And it leads to him eventually moving to Israel because it's like, yeah, F all this. Let's go to effing Israel. He's probably dead by Gaza, but it's effing. It's like, I mean, like when you think about this, it's not as if Israel's any better. it's it's just as miserable. They went through a crap ton of wars when it first was formed. And it's like he literally says it himself. He had no interest in going to Israel. He just went because he overdosed his wife and he agreed to it. That's why I was saying earlier, I don't think it's necessarily him being intimate
Finding
with her.
harmony
But
again. Yeah.
he found harmony because he knew he effed up. Like giving her heroin was the wrong move. And he thought he was doing a good thing, and it was just the wrong move. And because of that, he is
But it
no
seems like it
longer.
brought them together.
I do agree. But again, me making this bleak message does not mean that these characters are not human and they're not finding solace in each other. I think that they do. I think that the reasons for it and the motivations for his character are more bleak than you might realize, though, because he obviously had no intention of going to Israel prior, and he
Yeah.
was more than willing to continue be dealing with Guy Pearce until he overdosed his wife, and so he basically capitulated. And so a large part of that capitulation is him changing his mindset, be more accepting of her and her wishes. So is that good? Yes, I think that's a good outcome for him.
I think
It's
so.
not what he anticipated to ever do, and him learning that was purely based on him effing up.
Yeah, but that's often what it takes, I would say. And I mean, his fixation was just not healthy, right? Like, isn't that a big theme? Is the creativity, the art just isn't enough to sustain you? And
Yeah. But again, like we never get to see those scenes of him. We get a little bit of hints of it, but then we have a massive hard cut and he
yeah,
stops becoming the main character of his own story. And we don't get to see the intimate parts of him.
yeah,
And it makes you wonder, did he actually achieve that? What were those other future projects of them like? Were they just as
yeah,
miserable? Like there's a lot of ambiguity. And I think the purpose of the ambiguity is to show that his life didn't necessarily get better just because you are hopeful it does, because it's too human. This movie is too human for it to just be a happy ending for his character. It's just slightly too off, and like the messaging of it is intentionally ambiguous to where you're
yeah,
wondering, like, did it ever get better for him?
yeah. Definitely, I
He
agree.
doesn't
I
look
agree.
he doesn't look like he's in his best
That's
state by the
he
end.
doesn't. You're right. That's absolutely true. Yeah, and I like that. Those are always the ones that stick with you. I mean, I've definitely come to appreciate more bittersweet or even just grim ending. It just makes you think, and those are the ones that stick with you. I was noticing like his only happy moments are, or most of his happy moments are when he's doing something else, like working on the bridge. Is the guy's name Gordon? Working shoveling coal. I
Mm.
guess he does like a little jig. He's a little bit happy in the library before Van Buren gets home. But yeah, his happiest moments are when he first arrives. He's kind of full of hope, and then just a few moments doing like normal grunt work and going to the pub or whatever, I guess. But I wonder.
Or like in the hard beginning of the film when he immediately goes to strippers.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's like they just added that for like no effing reason. I was like so confused.
I guess took it as, okay, this is kind of one of his vices. He's away from his wife and he's a man who has these weaknesses. Um,
And he's ripped for some reason. What's he
yeah,
about to star in a Marvel movie?
he is ripped. I wonder about his past. Like, I was wondering if they'd show some flashbacks or show him talking about what first inspired him, or him like as a young lad in Hungary, like looking at a building or in nature. I feel like, man, nature, I just feel like brutalism is so isolating from nature. But he was talking about how it's supposed to remind you of the mountains or whatever. In her final speech too, there were regular things she said that I disagreed with about looking up to hope, evocative of the mountains, of our place in the world. That's just, to me, I wish I understood brutalism more, because to me it's just like, ugh, not at all. And
I think again, like I said earlier, I don't think he necessarily is in it for brutalism like
yeah,
most people would. He, like they said, overall, like the reason he made it the way it was is to evoke Holocaust stuff. And I'm like, are
right.
you
Yeah.
sure? He wasn't in the Holocaust. He
Wait,
was.
so what is that? Because at the end she mentions he was in Buchenwald and she was in Dachau. Um, and right, and I don't know if they had ever mentioned that before, had they? Or
So they're from Hungary, and the war is over, right?
right,
So was he in a concentration camp? Let me
I
look
think,
this up before
yeah. I think at least in the final speech, she says he was in Buchenwald and his wife was in Dachau, which is another thing that it kind of left. Oh, it omitted at least until this one assertion, and
Yes. Okay. So he was.
which is strange, right? Because I don't think they told us that before. There's like these
Was.
motives that you're just kind of filling in afterwards, retroactively, and it's kind of interesting. It just makes you think, what did he think? I don't know. I liked the voiceovers and the letters. That's a good effect.
In his pre-war career, he was a brilliant student of architecture, of modernist brutalism, public buildings in Budapest.
Mm.
It doesn't say a lot else. That's really what it was. I mean, he just he obviously made some buildings, and they were one of the few that didn't burn. And so maybe because of his experience, he had a new belief in wanting to like this concept of legacy with them being unburnable, which is why like how they were saying like no, I'm only gonna make it with like concrete and stone and crap or marble more specifically, and like he's like saying no to all these different things and is like I'm doing it this way and this way only because he knows it'll last.
Yeah.
He's making it a very specific way to last.
What was the deal with the pillars full of water? Was that like the pool he had talked about, or was that a section that was going to be drained? Or
isn't that the pool? What do you mean?
Is it the pool? I just it seemed like they were like walking through it. It was like ankle deep or
well, yeah, because it's not finished.
Yeah, okay. I just wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if that was a callback or if that was related in any way to
because it's like not finished.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I just wasn't sure. Like Van Buren said, he couldn't swim, right, at some point, and I wasn't sure if there was
which is effing funny.
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah, he had some laughs definitely. I saw it.
Effing Guy Pearce is so effing funny. Like I've been seeing so many memes of the intellectually stimulating thing, and it's still funny to me. He's just such full of crap. He's such. Then when they like, here's a penny, and it's like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna need that back. I went a little too far.
Yeah,
like what the f's your problem?
That was the first. I mean, that was a scene where I wondered if they pushed it a little too far. Like he was already being built up definitely as this kind of insecure, hollow, like egocentric, yeah, whatever, bullyish guy. But then that, I don't know. I was.
No, I guess I was surprised. One of the more important things. It tells you exactly who he is. He is that kind of guy. There are people like that in the real life who are that horrible, and it's like it's like a buildup where you might not necessarily realize he's bad at first, and then when you are like, okay, he's pretty ridiculous because like he's kind of generous. He portrays himself as generous. Then he's like Mr. Beast. He like turns it into a more disturbing thing where you start relying on him and he loves that he controls your life.
Yeah.
And then he just takes everything from you and makes you know that he could take it away.
Yeah, that's right. He does a good job. I've liked him, and I forget what else I've seen him in. Count of Monte Cristo, I know, years ago. He was good in that.
He was the old guy in Prometheus.
Haven't seen that.
Yeah, they made him have old age makeup so he could play an older guy for some reason. He's just in Prometheus, and everyone made fun of it.
Okay, what is Prometheus again?
It's the Alien prequel.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
Like the joke is like, why wouldn't you just not hire an old dude to play this character?
I know he's in the Iron Man 3. What else?
One other small tangent. John Travolta had old makeup on when he was playing Gotti, even though he is canonically older than the character he's portraying.
When he's playing who?
Gotti. He's putting on old people makeup for a character he's older than.
That's funny. Oh, what's it called? Memento. That's Guy Pearce, isn't it?
That is Guy Pearce, and one of his strongest performances.
That was a strong performance.
I do think Brutalist is probably really high. I think in terms of like, it's funny because he opens up like he's effing really hammy for no effing reason. When he's like, "What is this? What is this race?" And I'm like, "Dude, dial it like 3 down because this is a bit much." And then he's like completely normal for the rest of the film.
It can definitely be an American thing, though. I like how they established that pretty early, like that American bravado or assertiveness, just loudness, because that's something you notice definitely traveling around. Just Americans definitely want to show what they're about. They definitely want to show what is their space, or I don't know. I like that intro, but it was very
My
over the
mother
top.
saw that black individual outside and scared her near to death. She's on her deathbed as
Yeah.
is.
I feel
I'm
like that's pretty
funny.
realistic. Yeah.
It's really epic funny.
That was what's this Laszlo's most assertive moment, yeah. And then he just becomes kind of this shadow.
That is interesting. That's probably both of them at their most extremes as they confront each other.
Yeah.
And they both subdue themselves. And one is like obviously subdued to the other, and the other is just effing evil, and he pretends he's not.
Yeah. What's supposed to be his relationship with his mother? And like that first monologue about his mother and then dedicating the place to her. Maybe I need to see it again.
To think he's rich from her, wouldn't you think?
Probably.
Yeah, because we don't ever. We know he has a company, but like, if it doesn't even feel like he built it himself.
I don't know.
He seems very incompetent with his business. Obviously, because he tried to hire his own guys on the train incident that happens.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out as he was giving that monologue, like if it was just fake, if he just didn't really feel it, if he's trying to kind of fabricate something like he's seen other people do and, dedicate this place to her. If he wants to feel like he has this human, I don't know.
I don't think he lies. He never really lies.
Yeah.
He pretends that it's not as he's not as scary as he is. I don't think he necessarily ever lies. Even when he's saying like that was intellectually stimulating, that's him just being a douchebag. It's not necessarily him lying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Man, I do want to see it again. I feel like I'm already letting details slip from my memory. It has a lot of...
What do you think of the built-in intermission?
Oh, that was cool. Yeah. I really had to pee too. It was good. I haven't seen a movie with an intermission in so long. Probably Ben-Hur. What else? I guess Lord of the Rings extended version.
The version of King Kong I saw did that, which is funny because they both have Adrian Brody.
Oh, yeah. I really like him. I don't know if he always does like very serious roles, but
it's almost always.
Okay. He does that pretty well.
He's in The Pianist. He's in effing Thin Red Line, even though he got effed over for that movie for no reason. He's a very serious actor.
Yeah.
I think of what his non-serious stuff is. I don't even think I can recall.
I know he's in Peaky Blinders. He's pretty serious and dramatic. He's definitely dramatic. I feel
you never told me he's in that. Now I gotta watch that show.
Oh, yeah, he's like the best loved villain, I want to say. Oh, except for Alfie Solomon's probably.
He's in Asteroid City. But he's even in Asteroid City. He's playing a character that isn't even funny within that realm. He's in Blonde. Why is he in Blonde?
Peaky Blinders should have a film, right? Sometime soon.
All right. He's in a lot of movies. The Village was very, very good with him.
The Village.
Night Shyamalan movie. Very good.
List.
Fantastic Mr. Fox. Interesting. He works with Wes Anderson before. Midnight in Paris. I guess that's a remake of that film.
Oh, he was what was he? Dali, right? Yeah. He was good. He was funny there. That's right. He was funny there. He was like very dramatic and talking about drawing rhinoceroses in the sun melting or something.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
I feel like
career. You know what I like him in a lot of is Predators. That's right. I love him in Predators.
Oh, I did see him in Predators.
Wait, you've seen Predators?
Yeah, I think I skimmed through it. I don't think I was super impressed in it. Remember, I think we talked... What was it? I saw...
you saw Predator.
Yeah, I think I saw
more.
I think I just skimmed through it and wasn't super impressed. That's where they're on a ship and like an abandoned ship on the world, right? And they're like holed
No,
up and they start being hunted.
nah, man, nah. They're on a effing predator planet, and it's Harvey Weinstein's planet. You see, no, it's effing. They got a bunch of like you got FBI criminals, you got effing
That's
warriors,
right. Yeah.
and they're all dealing with 3 predators, 3 Harveys.
It's an interesting
And
idea.
I effing rock with that movie. That movie is awesome. You know, me and my dad, when we saw it, we were like, I don't know, it's kind of retreading the first one, but we're like, you know what? No, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I think it's funny that I think Topher Grace is in it, and he's just a serial killer. That's pretty good.
That's right. Yeah.
You know what makes it so interesting is that these are just some really effing evil people, and they have to work together to fight something that could clearly kill all of them. And it works honestly in a lot of ways. It's actually a very unique conflict that you don't typically see.
That was good. I did like the Topher Grace. I'm remembering a little more now. I like the Topher Grace twist. Yeah. I think I just skimmed it, to be honest.
Machete was great, even though he died first. I mean, and also, you know who else was it? Was Googans in that film? No, Googans
I have
was it.
no idea who that is.
Mother effing Googans! Let me look at the Goog. Walton Googans. Mother effing love him.
Oh, yeah.
He's like he's a lot like Nick Cage status for me and my family. We absolutely worship him. But he's not like Nick Cage. He actually is a competently great actor. No, hang on. I apologize. Nicolas Cage is also an extremely perfect, great actor, but he has a little more fun. Walton Goggins is actually, a traditionally considered a great actor.
Okay. I must have only seen him in Fallout, Hateful Eight. Can't remember what else.
Hateful Eight he is the best guy in effing Hateful Eight, and he's a racist. It's awesome.
He is good in Hateful Eight.
He's actually the sheriff, and he's like he's the savior of the day somehow. He doesn't kill. He even Samuel L. Jackson kills people in cold blood in that film, and he's like the only normal guy. He's an effing Confederate. It's so funny.
Let's see. What else?
I apologize. One last thing. One other fun fact about Googans in that when he faints in that movie, when he says "I don't feel so good" near the ending, and he faints, I in the theater audibly said no. And then years later, I showed it to my half brother Ethan, and he also audibly said no at the exact same moment.
Oh, I don't remember that. I'd have to go see, but that is funny. I feel like everything about the Brutalist just looked really good. They filmed it. Okay, tell me about the vision. Whatever. Is this unique in any way?
What vision?
What's the way they filmed it? That's like VistaVision.
You mean color grading and cinematography?
VistaVision, right? Is that something old or something different?
No, that's a joke. That's not a real thing. Okay. Everyone films the same way.
Okay. Well, anyway, it looked really good. Like the angles they would choose, the angles of the buildings, the angles of the faces, the way they would like roll across the nature, like the roads going through nature, and they skim the camera forward across the road or across the train tracks. The sense of like industry overtaking nature. Yeah, I don't know. The score. Yeah. Who did the score?
I don't know. I'm not familiar, but the score is probably going to win best score. I think.
Yeah, I would bet so. Oh, because did you say Dune? Dune didn't get nominated, did it?
Even if Dune got nominated, I would prefer the Brutalist. I think really? The Brutalist score is better.
I love the Duduk in Dune. For me, that's just awesome. But I guess Hans Zimmer uses it so much. I like that too. I like the love theme in this Dune, though. That was pretty cool. But maybe the variety of this one, the versatility. And they really capture this intense intimacy and then these sweeping kind of grand scale. I liked like the time lapses and all the edits. I guess I already said that. The cuts where they'd go through and it was in time with the music and they're showing different. What do you call that? Montage or whatever.
Sorry, repeat again. Montages.
Like when they're going through cutting, showing different Like the music is going and it's like clung, clung, and having this like very industrial, clunky, whatever, metallic, and with every clung, with every beat of the
Oh,
music.
right. It's kind of like what Last of Us does. I mean, those are obviously unique instruments, like like effing stuff that Ludwig Goranowski could do, effing crap. There's actually dedicated instruments that do those weird sounds and stuff, and they're very cool when you look them up. A lot of them are usually used for horror movies, which is why it was so interesting that it was done for this project. And it's like pretty much a drama, and then like you hear these very creepy, off-putting sounds at times because of those instruments that they use.
Exactly. Yeah. And even just from that first shot, I don't know, did you feel that was too on the nose? I know a lot of people love that shot, but with the Statue of Liberty upside down, for
Oh, that
me,
was perfect.
yeah,
Oh, that was so good.
it
What
was
do you
pretty
think
good.
though?
I liked it. I really liked it in the moment. Only kind of in retrospect am I like, huh, that pretty much just gave away a lot of the movie. Like, I wonder if something a little more subtle would be interesting, but maybe, probably not. Probably not. I loved it in the moment, and I probably still like it.
It says a lot about Adrian Brody's character. He's in the pitch black, desperate to get out to freedom, basically. And then he sees the Statue of Liberty, and it means something so much different to him. And we see that there's not something off, obviously, because it's upside down and
Yeah, yeah,
skewed.
yeah.
And it's like letting the audience know that this ain't about to be happy. Like him seeing it, like normally for anyone in his circumstance would be very happy, but it's making us feel unwell for him.
Hmm. True, true, definitely. It was such a weird time, man. America was growing so fast.
Right?
I wonder,
Don't
yeah,
do
so you
drugs.
didn't feel like it
Mushrooms.
was were you wanting them to show a little bit of like flashbacks or past, or were you surprised when they omitted stuff like the concentration camps, or were you hoping they'd show a little bit more of the permanence of his buildings rather than just showing them in that exhibit? Or
I
did
appreciate
you have this feeling that I had where they like leave stuff out and leave you to speculate a lot? I mean, I'm sure that's intentional, but I'm wondering if you had that feeling as much.
it is definitely intentional. I would not have liked flashbacks. My dad actually did mention that he did not like that Guy Pearce was not explicitly shown dead, and you don't necessarily
Mm,
know what happened.
that was interesting. I was surprised.
Because that's like what its intention is. You're literally anticipating to
Yeah,
see his dead body
yeah,
because you want to feel the satisfaction. But you have to think it from, say, Adrian Brody's perspective. He doesn't care if he dies or not. It seems indifferent to him. So we don't get to learn what happens to
yeah.
Guy Pearce, even though you can probably safely assume he did kill himself. Is that it's irrelevant to him.
That's
And
true.
it's like it doesn't feel satisfying because he doesn't find satisfaction in a lot of what happens.
That's true. And you have kind of Brody's perspective through it all, where we haven't seen tons of his like inner family life, or we haven't seen tons of the drama or this image he maintains before his family. Too much. You definitely some. But yeah, it's not like he really needs to know, and it's not like he's really concerned with it. That's probably true. And then they do say at the end, don't they let slip through something like, "Oh, the dogs have got something" or something like that? There's like some enough of a hint.
Yeah, those dogs are effing stupid. They were on heroin themselves. They didn't know what they're talking about.
Okay.
They effing spend like effing all night looking and they're like, these dogs don't know crap.
Yeah. What else? The daughter. She was nice. I could have seen maybe a little bit more from the
I
daughter.
mean, niece. That is their niece.
No, the rich daughter. She was like the
Oh,
antithesis to Harry. Like Harry was this jerk. He was kind of more overt about it than his dad at the beginning, but then the daughter was like this sympathetic presence. A few glimpses throughout.
yeah. I
I wondered
didn't
if they
pay
would have an
attention to
affair
her.
or something.
They were doing a lot of that. They're trying to make you think Guy Pearce also was trying to have an affair.
Yeah, yeah, right. But he was
And it's
just insecure, I guess, around, what was her name? Elzbieta?
No, he did that because he was trying to
Elizabeth.
separate him from his wife, have more control over him.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, no, I agree,
That's
I
why he did
agree.
that.
But, yeah, no, you're right, you're right. But probably I would say also he liked to be associated as this patron of, she's educated, he's educated. he wants to kind of foster them both. Maybe
That's the thing, Jesse. I don't think he is educated in the like. He makes himself seem like he is, but it's all a front.
No, I mean Laszlo. Sorry, Laszlo's educated. She's educated. They come to this country, and he Van Buren.
Oh, okay.
I mixed up my pronouns there. He
No
wants
worries.
to be seen.
Don't
as...
do it again or get canceled.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Please. I think you're right. I'm trying to remember what else. The niece looked like Harry Potter for sure.
Niece. That's funny. I guess she's British looking.
She looks strikingly like Harry Potter to me. Something about the... Who is it?
Don't give them too many ideas. J.K. Rowling will be pretty upset with that.
Raffi Cassidy. Does she not? You've seen Harry Potter?
Yes, I've seen it with your family too, which is even more effed up that you don't remember.
Well, I was probably traveling. I think you guys saw him while I was overseas.
Yeah, probably. I think Harry Potter would be better if we followed Snape.
No.
Yes.
No. There'd be 100%. No surprise. There'd be no twist.
The twist is that effing Harry needs to shut the F up and listen to Snape.
That would be funny. They could do a play or something. They
could totally do like a effing play. Like have Team 4-Star get on that crap.
What's Team 4-Star?
They make parody plays of things like Twisted for Aladdin, where what if Jafar was the good guy? And you know what? It's even better than the movie somehow.
I don't know that.
I gotta watch Twisted. I know you probably won't, but Twisted is like it's free on YouTube too.
4-Star,
and it's like legit great.
Okay.
You know what you could do? Go watch Shea Frillis Productions. That guy I mentioned. He made a video about Twisted. He made a very good analysis of it. It's honestly really good movie.
Adding it to the list. I have The Champ.
Dude, The Champ effing cheats.
The Champ. What was the other one?
$1 Million Baby. It'd be fun to talk about $1 Million Baby. Oh, Incredible Hulk. Go watch Incredible Hulk. That's number one.
Yeah, I got that one. Okay.
You know, the thing about The Champ is like it has consistently been ranked as the most likely film to make a man cry. Just straight up.
Really?
Yes. I can totally see why.
No, Lord of the Rings.
My dad cries. It's like it's really hard to get through it.
Okay. It's going to be tough to beat Return of the King.
No one thinks Return of the King is cry-worthy. What?
Oh, it's so many people. When they're on the mountain there.
I mean, Rings of Power is certainly cry-worthy.
There you go, yeah. When they're on the mountain there, and he's asking him, do you remember the taste of strawberries and cream? Oh, so many cry moments. And then the end.
And I'm like thinking when they say that crap, I'm like, ew.
So that's so lame. I guess.
Are you talking about me putting strawberries in the cream? Or what kind of cream are we talking about? Is this motherfucking butter?
This is contrarian Conrad. You didn't see it. You had to see. I guess you had to see it.
I mean, like effing whipped cream. Did he have that back then? What are you talking about, Sam?
Heavy cream, like what you put in, like strawberries and cream.
No. You said cream.
Yeah, like what you put in cooking.
Like, it'd be funny if I'm there and I'm arguing with Sam as he's dying.
That would. There's so many great moments, man. It just brings back so much Tolkien.
I felt sad that the hero of the story, Smeagol, dies. To the evil
another contrarian. No. First of all, everyone feels sad for that too. That's another crying moment. Smeagol dying, realizing the third eagle is for Smeagol. And
were you there?
That rhymes.
I saw them with you guys. I never watched them until with you guys.
Yeah, I know. You missed the chance to see them in your youth and to see them in conjunction with these powerful books.
No, I did see them in my youth. I didn't like them in my youth.
Too many. I don't know.
It was only when I watched them with you that I realized that they're much cooler than. I still don't like the first one, unfortunately. It's really kind of scary because I'm so talented at film criticism that everyone says that the first one's the best, and I don't connect with that. And it's
Huh.
always been one of those things that bothers me because I am the most contrarian about the first one.
Yeah. I would say, well, okay, I'm curious to hear your overall experience, like why you started to appreciate them a bit more
So
with the family.
here's the thing: you got to keep in mind that my favorite film was effing King Kong.
Yes. I know. And you have stuff with Peter Jackson in the external world, politics, whatever. But in
Yes.
universe,
So
had you read Lord of the Rings,
here's
or are
my
you a Lord
problem.
of the Rings
No,
guy?
I've never read Lord of the Rings. I
Okay.
would never dare read them.
Oh no.
I
Okay.
like books, but no. But first of all, it's very important to keep in mind that fantasy is not a genre I typically like.
True.
Um, I have an issue typically with the concept of magic and fantasy creatures. Just on principle. I think it's not as interesting as sci-fi, for example. But this isn't like a guaranteed rule. There are fantasy things I like, but you definitely have noticed, Jesse. I prefer sci-fi. That has always been true, and
Definitely.
so it's a hard hurdle for all this lore dumping that they keep on spouting, and then they're like, "Oh, the ring race are coming." Well, oh, shut the f up! I don't care. I'm like, I find the ring to be kind of effing stupid. The idea that
You don't, okay.
first of all,
You acknowledge the similarity between like sci-fi fantasy, like both speculative fiction, whatever, major speculative fiction genres that deal with similar questions a lot of the time with regards to like sci-fi has a little more concepts, what, like consciousness, machine consciousness, what is the human identity, maybe futurism, maybe
right?
how we order society. And fantasy might be a little more abstract mental, like the power of belief or the power of relationships, telepathy via, but a lot
Yeah,
of them have like very
typically
similar themes.
no. I
Yes, with like
heavily no,
abstract
but
things made
this isn't
tangible
one of
through
those.
the
This
world
isn't
building.
even a me thing. No,
This
no, no.
is
Hang on a
this
second.
is true.
So sci-fi. The goal of sci-fi is to present new, interesting concepts, whether with technology. Like, what if we could create dinosaurs, like Jurassic Park? What are the consequences? What can we explore with that concept?
Which
Or
you can
or
have a
Gar-
fantasy
Gar-
analog for that very easily, though.
or Guardians of the Galaxy, where you have a normal human being in a world of estrangements and aliens, right? Like that's closer to your fantasy to give you more devil's advocate. What makes Guardians of the Galaxy interesting is that it's grounded in our imagination as we can realistically envision things being possible today. Whereas fantasy, we are fabricating it. And the
Yeah, no, I see
questions
what you're talking
posed,
about.
the questions posed are not as interesting
No,
when
but
you're
the
doing
questions
it
are
with
so
magic.
similar. Okay, yeah, no, I see what you're talking about. I've actually long in the past when I was making videos in the trailer in Missouri and I had my Amish looking beard. I had a script on difference between sci-fi and fantasy that I don't know if I ever released. There are some differences, but come on, a lot of the questions are extremely similar. Like you can find an analog for Guardians of the Galaxy or even time
Right.
travel, even
That's me saying that there's similarities between fantasy and there, and
yeah.
I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Okay, okay.
But like for
But you
example,
do have, I
for
guess,
example,
the major.
Interstellar
Sorry, go on, go on.
Interstellar is us.
Yeah,
Interstellar is us trying to explore us realistically trying to get off a planet.
yeah,
Whereas if this was told with like magic, you don't feel the weight of the consequences as
true.
much.
Yeah,
If it
and
was told with fantasy,
the more like hard sci-fi, hard tech you get, I think the more different they become. For me, the most
yes,
interesting things about sci-fi have usually been machine consciousness, AI, and then maybe some element of like biohacking or genetic engineering or like nanotech or obviously just exploring space like other planets and the wild ways they can be different. That
yeah.
gets once again more similar to fantasy if you're looking at like Sanderson
Like
stuff. But
Like Jurassic Park, exploring how we can create them and make it into a theme park and like the consequences of that.
yeah.
It's less interesting if we're like, oh, we discovered new magic that can do it. It's not as creative to
Yeah,
me.
this
It
could just be
feels
a difference. Like I like Savannah. I like sci-fi much more than
good
Savannah
one.
does. And we were talking about this actually probably in our podcast, which should come out soon too, hopefully. Um, I like sci-fi more than she does, and we were talking about the differences. And it seems to me like sci-fi is a little colder in its vibe. Like the concepts it deals with are a little more maybe broad or overarching. There's some sense in which a lot of fantasy fans like it for the vibe, maybe the connection to like fairy tale and warm, fuzzy, like you feel very grounded in the earth. You know, there's the sort of battle, the horses, the castle. You feel like connected to the past, and maybe there's a sort of whimsy there or a sort of groundedness or warmth. Whereas in sci-fi, you have more like chrome. This is all a little bit tangential, but you have like chrome, spaceships, hyperspace. Like there's a sense in which it feels a little colder or a little more impersonal, I think.
This is definitely true about sci-fi in nature.
Yeah.
Sci-fi wants to explore if we had this stuff, what would we do with it? And how would
Yeah,
we screw up with
exactly.
it?
Yeah.
Whereas fantasy, that's not their goal at all. Their goal is more about like being imaginative and maybe obviously they're allegorical to our real life and the same different ways that any genre could be in
Yeah.
creating their messages. But like it's much looser with fantasy.
It is looser.
Sci-fi,
It's looser in
you
that
have to be
way.
more deliberate.
Sci-fi is like you're speculating regarding this specific technology. What would it do to the human or to the human experience? Whereas, and you have to like do your research and you have to make connections. And then even the more fantasy sci-fi like Dune or whatever is also more sweeping and like studious in that way. Whereas fantasy has a lot of, I guess I'd call it personal or relational or political. Maybe this is more recent, but especially with like George R. R. Martin, obviously, or even Robert Jordan and some of the older ones, you have a lot of the focus on like family politics, and the medieval kind of setting lends itself very well to that, where it's about this sort
Right.
of like soft power and negotiation, manipulation, and then the talisman or whatever lets you bond with a dragon or
There
bond with
isn't
another
really a
mind.
lot of magic in Game of Thrones from my understanding. Like you have
No,
like very hyper specific things that can happen that could just be in the genre of like even a zombie genre. Like the dragons, or there's a joke about them taking forever to come into play. And like
yeah,
again, those are just kind of just like big monsters. And like
yeah,
they don't necessarily have to be fantasy to work. Like the thing that makes Game of Thrones so good and the complaints people have about Game of Thrones are unrelated to the fantasy setting.
yeah.
And you know
The
what?
politics
That's
and the
true for Lord of
family.
the Rings for a lot of people. I think
Yeah,
people really cared about the characters and the journey, and all that stuff's great. I just don't care for it as much personally. I think what like I was trying to say earlier, the reason I'm so contrarian is because it's hard for me to accept that they're gonna have this entire fellowship. They're gonna go and take this ring to the effing volcano or whatever, and I'm just personally out of it because
I
like I'm like
understand that. I do like the weakest part for me is the ring, ironically enough. And people do all their commentary, and you write essays and degrees, probably theses on the ring and the symbolism. And for me, the older I grow, it is interesting to look back and see, these are very, despite all Tolkien's intelligence and the fascinating, themes at play, these are very kind of black and white characters. Like there isn't much of the nuance or grit or like internal struggle that you see in Game of Thrones, which for me and for modern audiences is probably much more interesting. And it's much more in line with what I'd consider like the great literature of like a Steinbeck or whatever. And Tolkien is very allegorical, and even like
yeah.
Boromir, Frodo, their internal struggles are pretty like sweeping
Boromir bothered me
from a
because obviously
distance.
again he's so tied to the ring, and
Right.
it like I think that the ring just is just too bothersome of a concept for me. Obviously, it's supposed to represent like temptation. Obviously, there's a Christian allegories about what it's meant to do, being temptation
Yeah.
and all that.
I
It just
see how that's
doesn't.
bothersome.
It just doesn't have a longevity to it until like
Yeah.
the end, where I start feeling a little differently about it when it but like the reason why I clearly prefer 2 and 3, not just because Smeagol's in it, but because like overall, when you get them away from each other and you have the groups that are more dedicated outside of the fellowship,
Yep.
their dynamics are actually interesting to me. Like
Yeah.
Gimli and Legolas, their friendship's effing awesome. And like Frodo and Sam and then them having to deal with Smeagol and his persona Frodo, not Frodo, I mean Golem.
Yeah.
That stuff is super interesting to me. And those are interesting interpersonal relationships at play. And that's completely absent in the first film, where their biggest concern is with getting the ring from point A to point B, and their conversations and biggest conflict revolve around just the ring. Like the ring is the driving force of the
That's
conflict
right.
in that
That's
film.
right. Yeah. I think I think the third would be my favorite. To be honest, it flip-flops. 2 is definitely firmly my least favorite. Um I love
Oh,
Helm's
okay.
Deep. I'm just not as much of a battle guy as most people, I guess. I can
Uh-huh.
pretty much skim through the battles. Um,
Right.
it's tough. It flip flops each time I see one. I kind of waver, and sometimes it's my favorite. Probably primarily for the Shire. There's just this power. I don't know if it's my childhood or remembering like playing outside or some of the first music I ever really listened to while writing my books and my stories was concerning hobbits and some of those early Shire themes. And it's just this pristine, I mean, that was Tolkien's thing. It's this pristine, untouched like
Right.
paradise. And
Like
it
I liked that stuff. I thought the second breakfast line was great. I like those two. What are the two halflings called?
Marion
Hobbits, I mean.
Merrin Pippin.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
funny.
they are funny. Yeah, yeah. And it's like this friendship, this idyllic land, this fireworks. And it for Tolkien, I think that was very much like the ideal, before the war, before he fought in the war, it was like this uncorrupted land. And then that was why in the books, you probably know Saruman comes to the Shire and corrupts the Shire. And when all the hobbits get back, they didn't have this in the film for various reasons. But when
Yeah,
the
probably
hobbits
because it sucked.
Yeah. I mean, it is odd. It's like this small, what would you call it? Small climax after the climax, and they have to rid the Shire of Saruman, and he's called
Yeah, it's a
Sharky, which is
really
kind of
effing
goofy.
long time to take to
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
It is funny.
But it's because he wanted to show that no one is free from corruption and that this journey is necessary for every individual to take this burden upon themselves. And for him
Yeah,
it was
man.
these
Sam
small
gets
people.
a pretty wife and gets some kids, and his buddy
Yeah.
gets to become immortal.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you crying? Sam, just go with them, man. Bring your wife and kids. Why don't you?
Oh, it's just so precious. I love that. And that's for me why
Yeah,
the first
I
one is
don't.
so powerful because it sets that Shire vibe. And the extended, oh my gosh. Do you know that I only saw the whatever the theatrical release in like
It's
2023? And
yeah, it's so different.
yeah, and it was like all the concerning hobbits like setting up this paradise was missing. And for me, that's such a like a linchpin for the whole journey.
A lot of that's criminal. You know, the whole thing with Saruman is criminal
Yes,
for the third film.
absolutely. Yeah,
That's insane to me.
that's insane. I don't know how you could do that. It's so different.
They just did it. I mean, Peter Jackson couldn't stop them.
I guess. So
And
yeah, I
it's
don't know.
like, it's always interesting to me, like that and like Aliens, for example. Watching the normal version of Aliens without the extended edition, it seems effing criminal to me.
Remind me.
And because you don't learn that she has a daughter, and there's a lot of key scenes missing, just like very fundamentally, like some of the best scenes are just missing.
Oh,
But like even with like that, there's people that only have seen the theatrical version and they're just not aware.
yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. Then
A lot of
maybe
people.
I could see you liking two more than one. No, I'm not sure.
Oh, so what do you think I like? Well, obviously one's my least favorite. What do you think I prefer more, two or three?
You're probably gonna say two, huh?
It's three. It's got Sheila,
Okay.
baby.
Oh, right, of course. Yeah, the spiders.
That mother effing spider Shelob's the best effing thing. You know, that's the one thing that did stick with me is Shelob. I was like, you know what? I will watch these movies with you guys because I know Shelob's in them. And I was like, I literally remember asking a lot, is Shelob in two? And you guys wouldn't tell me. And I'm like, is Shelob going to come in two? And then they don't. I'm like, wait for Shelob for three.
So in the books,
Shelob is
she's in two.
perfection. I know that. I know
Okay.
that one for sure because obviously I care too much about this stupid spider.
Yeah. There is a
I know way too much about this dumb spider. I have a magic card for effing Shelob, and it's not even a good card. It's pretty mid, and I made a whole spider build with that mother effing Shelob character. It was called Gary. It was really fun. I couldn't deal with the ring race. That's why I hate the ring race, because the Magic the Gathering, they're overpowered AF.
I have no clue about Magic the Gathering. Do you have actual characters from like franchises, or do you just construct them to be analogs or whatever?
No, they're official cards.
Really? Okay. What? How so they get the rights or something?
Yeah, they it was like a licensing thing. They just got
Oh.
to make some art and cards for them.
I have no clue about Magic the Gathering, except apparently they're making a movie, right?
Say again, you cut out, I think.
Oh, they're making a movie for Magic the Gathering, right?
I don't know that. It'd be weird if they tried. Like, I guess you could do Rakdos in general, but like, that's like 10 guilds. Like, who are you gonna focus on? Not Rakdos, Ravnica. Dude, if you make a effing Magic Gathering film and you don't have Rakdos, that would be retarded. I'm sorry.
There's Sense through the third one, going back to Return of the King, unless you want to move on, where it's like
But we can go back to it, yeah.
it's like leached of color. That might be another reason the first one draws me, is so much of it is Frodo and Sam, and so much of it is kind of leached of color. And at the end, things are so heartwarming and so triumphant and so sacrificial. And then, in Gondor, everyone bowing to the hobbits, and he's like singing, I love that. And he's like, my friends, you bow to no one. And this is like glorious. But the first huge chunk of it is very kind of leached of color. Gondor's battle is all leached of color. It's all like grays. And I wonder if that kind of drains the human soul a little bit, which is supposed to.
You could almost say that the hobbits became hob-thems.
Oh, and the score. Oh man, the score so glorious.
Yeah, you guys really love that effing score. I hear all the time people are like, best score ever. I don't believe
I think
that.
he was really a genius. I think he produced something truly great, like truly on par with some of the classical operas.
In the background. I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember the score that well.
Have you?
I know it.
I'll send you a YouTube video by this guy listening in. I don't know if you've seen it. He talks about how Howard Shore makes us care. It's one of my favorite YouTube videos of all time, probably. It's pretty good. Highly recommend.
Yeah, I just don't care about their score personally. I mean, I get it. That's just how people like it. It's like a very popular opinion. I just don't care for the instrumentation.
Oh, he started uploading again. Sorry. What? So this guy listening in,
subscribe to people.
He does video essays on music, classical music, film music, and he has videos until 3 years ago.
Todd in the Shadows.
What did you say?
Like Todd in the Shadows?
I don't know. But he had a 3-year hiatus, and now he started uploading again.
Yeah, that can happen. You're not dead until it's been 5 years.
Wow. You should, I'll send you this Lord of the Rings one, and then you send me the one you just said that I forgot.
What do I send you?
You said a channel just now, didn't you? Like something.
Oh, Shay Frillis?
No. Oh, maybe I said he does video essays on music, and you said something, but maybe I wasn't listening.
Oh no, you're fine. But yeah, you know, I prefer King Kong's score, just vastly more to it. I mean,
yeah,
King Kong is so much more epic to me.
I'll have to listen to it again, but it's going to be pretty hard.
Complex instrumentation. I mean, obviously there's a lot of bias, but like, I know all the songs in the score by heart, and like, it makes it feel like an Odysseus-like epic. Like, this is an epic told out through history.
That's exactly for me how Lord of the Rings is. It's like, this 9-hour or whatever, 10-hour epic, and you have these themes that are woven throughout and evolve, and they'll drop into a minor, and then they'll lead into fullness with promises of. I'll send you this. It's very good. This one and what's the other one? Is it Nerd Writer? There's another one that's very good on Lord of the Rings.
I know Nerd Writer.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I used to watch him pretty regularly.
I bet he dropped off after the allegations.
Oh, I don't.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just making that up.
Everyone nowadays, man, it's true.
It's too bad he decided to join up with Mr. Beast, become evil.
Yeah, the evil manipulator of children.
I never see him ever interact with children. Every so often, maybe if like he's like curing their effing blindness.
That plastic smile holding up that chocolate bar. Feastable, so it's really healthy. And those like wide grinning eyes.
Dude, obviously he's just trying to sell some effing chocolate.
Did you see his video with Ronaldo? You know Cristiano Ronaldo, like the famous soccer player, right?
Yeah.
So he started a YouTube channel.
I know this, Jesse?
Okay, I wondered if you at least knew Ronaldo or Ronaldo and Neymar, Ronaldo and Messi.
I don't know a single soccer player.
So strange. I met another person here.
No, it's not. You're effing from the U.S., Jesse.
Even Americans are knowing about Ronaldo nowadays.
No, they're effing not.
They are. He has
Ronaldo.
Okay, well, he has. So he started a YouTube channel. And all these memes were going around because, you know, there's this I won't talk about it too long, but there's this everlasting rivalry between Ronaldo and Messi. Ronaldo's Portuguese, Messi's Argentine. And it's like the big question, who's better? And Messi's this short guy who seems like very naturally talented, quick. Ronaldo's this super hard worker, like looks like a stud, tall. And he gets more headers and he's more of a striker. Anyway, for me, Messi is clearly better. It's no conversation really.
Right, like when he goes under the gold net thing, like he won't bang his head on it. He doesn't have to crouch.
Exactly.
He's shorter.
So Ronaldo started a channel recently, and he has 73 million subscribers very quickly. And there were all these memes going.
Wait, did you just say 73? Oh, I should know about this guy. What the flip?
Oh yeah, look up "You Are Cristiano." Like you are. The letters Cristiano. He's one of the most famous people in the world easily.
Oh my gosh, this guy is massive. Is this like T-Series but for effing South America?
For soccer, pretty much.
Jeez,
he has 650 million on Instagram.
Jeez.
So he had
videos and he's getting crap tons of views. What the flip? Oh, he did a Mr. Beast thing. You're right. Why does Mr. Beast teeth?
And it was so awkward. They had no chemistry at all, and they were trying to do this, overlap each other's audiences, but it was so bad.
What in the world? What? So wait, is he the guy in the bottom left of the video?
With Mr. Beast? Let me see.
Who is he? Who is this? Who is Ronaldo?
Which, are you watching the Mr. Beast video?
I'm watching You Are Cristiano.
Like the channel? Does it have a channel video?
Never mind. Never mind. I just remembered I don't actually care.
Oh, the interview. I don't know. He's a super good soccer player. One of the most loved people in the world.
So he's like Tom Brady, but less famous.
Much more famous.
Less famous.
I'll take you. Okay, someday when we go back to Ireland or Japan or whatever, we'll have to go to a professional match, which I've never been, except for the San Jose earthquakes.
Yeah, don't worry. You can bring me along.
Yeah,
I'll accept.
You'll feel the power and the humanity. And it's like the gladiatorial games of old.
Like this mother effer faked like 3 times, Jesse. What are you talking about? He's on his knees crying. He wasn't even hit by anyone.
There's a strategy. It's all strategy. You have to get the refs doing this and that for your team. You have to do certain things to
like how it's
get
like
ahead of the other team.
Hockey, where they will just beat the crap out of each other, and that's a strategy. It's like, how is that not illegal?
Hockey is interesting.
Break. What the flip?
I must admit, I don't understand it, but it seems intriguing from afar. How it evolved, I don't know.
Do you see the hockey thing that happened recently?
No.
Oh, it's pretty funny. It's became so famous and well known that people who like me who don't pay attention to hockey know about it. So Canada and USA faced off, and they booed the American national anthem because they're whiny sore losers that Trump's effing up their country, which is hilarious.
I did see.
Within the first 9 seconds, keep in mind, this is important. Never has a fight ever broken out in an international game. So within the first 9 seconds, 3 different fights broke out.
Really?
They immediately started taking their gloves off and beating the crap out of each other.
I'll have to look it up.
It's very notable. People are they heavily invested in how funny it is. It's ridiculous.
When Canadians get aggressive, I guess.
And it's a strategy.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the trashers?
No. Those like
Trashers,
they'll go on and trash talk to get someone out.
No, what they do is they when the game starts, everyone on the team takes off their gloves and starts beating the crap out of the opposite team.
Okay, so literally just thrash. Okay, yeah.
Trashers, yeah. But this is a real strategy that's validated.
I believe it. And isn't it like you're out? I don't know when you're out or when you can fight, or if you can fight and then you have to go out.
You're not supposed to do it. It's a penalty for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
but you're
right?
allowed to beat the crap out of them.
It's pretty interesting. I like that, where you can choose to do something, but then you just get a time penalty instead of like, a red card and you're sent off like in soccer.
What was even funnier about the Trashers is they were a very competently good team. they were very good at hockey.
Maybe I wasn't listening. They're a team. Danbury Trashers.
Yes, they had a documentary made about them. They were funded by an actual mafia guy.
Okay.
The mafia guy's son wanted to do hockey. And his dad is a loving, doting father, again, in the mafia, and he gave him his wish to give him a hockey team. He funded the whole thing, and then they beat the crap out of people.
Okay, is it true that there's
so funny.
Is there a maple syrup mafia in Canada? I've heard this recently.
I've heard that too. I don't know explicitly any details about it.
I
know that there's a mafia related to olive oil. That's a really famous one. Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a mafia about anything, really.
Yeah, there's a mafia about... Never mind, I don't want to mention that publicly.
Oh, no.
There was a documentary about a very, very strange thing to have a mafia stealing, and it's bizarre for sure, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Use your imagination.
At the end of the team's second season, Galante was arrested on 72 criminal charges, including conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO. He pleaded guilty, was sentenced to 87 months in prisons, and had to forfeit his ownership interest in 25 trash hauling companies. So that's why they're called the Trashers.
You gotta watch there's a lot of things to recommend. There's a documentary about it. It is so effing funny. My dad showed it to me, and I'm like dying of laughter because they interview them too. Like even the mafia dude is interviewed in this thing because he's out of prison, and they're like talking about how happy they were. It was like a family-like experience, how much they were loving each other, and like literally all the players are like, I don't know where the F he gets his money from. I am positive it's illegal, but I don't have to care. I'm gonna beat up people and win for it. It's absurd to me that systematically they would take their gloves off and immediately start fights. Their coach would sabotage the other player's bathroom so that they had no hot water. And then the effing refs were like, hey, that's some actual cruelty. We can't have you do that. He kept doing it anyway.
This looks really funny. It seems like you're right. I'll have to... No, I don't know if I'll watch it, to be honest. That one, I'll have to see if I have
You don't
time.
have to. I basically gave away the best. It's funnier to see it and then talk about it. Especially near the end of the documentary, they have like some very wholesome music playing, obviously, as they're like talking about how great the experience was about being the best team of hockey before everything went south.
Oh, that reminds me. I want to write a song. Well, you won't care about this, but I was texting David. I want to write a song for the World Cup because the World Cup's coming to the US in 2026. And there's like there's groups that'll write songs and they'll go super viral. And like there was this cool one for Scotland in the Euro last time. And it was like, no Scotland, no party. And it's just fun. And you get like all these different people to represent your country. And I want to write a song that like mixes styles somehow. And maybe if we start now, we can have it go viral by 2026. But so if you have any ideas or if you know any songwriting tricks, keep that in mind.
I am not good at songwriting. I do not know music theory.
Okay. Well, me neither. But I do have a parody coming out soon. A parody of Hey There, Delilah, in which I'm
Oh
talking
my
about
gosh.
Jordan Peterson.
I like making music on Spore. That's my expertise.
Spore. Is that a game?
It's one of those you know things. It's not good.
I don't know what that means. Spore musical?
It's needlessly too much information I have to give you to have explained. So if some random person watching this, listening, knows what I'm talking about, they know.
Okay. Well, I use I don't even remember what it's called. Spitfire. And then I go in GarageBand and I mess around and waste time. But it's coming. It's coming. I'm going to become a musical guy. You just wait. I'm going to have 8 channels and all of them are going to be uploading consistently. Well, have we exhausted our material for the evening?
Not exhausted. It's all on you, Jesse. If you have anything else you'd like to talk about.
I feel like I need to see The Brutalist again.
Right.
I saw
it's
it
a lot of time to dedicate for sure.
Yeah. Oh, I like.
I was going to say.
I was going to ask, why are films generally all the same length? Because I love Dances with Wolves. I love Lord of the Rings. I love, forget what other long ones, Ben-Hur, and what other long ones have I seen? But why do they not make more long films? Do they just not do well?
It's dependent on the genre. This is a very simple question. First of all, comedies are shorter. Action movies, if they're about the length of an hour and a half, that is a big red flag on its quality. It needs to be longer, typically, if you're going for things outside of comedy. Animation is acceptable to be shorter. The longest animated film is probably not even 3 hours long. They don't like putting you in for longer into the theater because that creates less time to play a different film or even the same film multiple times in a single day.
Is that, you think that's the primary reason? And it doesn't have too much to do with like human attention?
This is the known primary reason.
Really?
This is common knowledge for people. They only allow people who are auteurs or indie or you're Christopher Nolan or James Cameron.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't typically like making films that are longer.
That's too bad. I'm trying to think of others. I know what Schindler's. Yeah, some Nolan films. I forget if The Abyss is long.
It's okay. I mean, it's not 3 hours for sure.
Yeah.
People, also public, will typically complain and make a big point about the fact that something's 3 hours long. Yeah, that has always been true.
A lot of people comment on stuff that could be cut, probably more than I do. I usually comment on stuff that could be added in, which is hence why I write.
I do both.
Billion-word books and then have to cut them down by 60%.
I like how Zack Snyder's Justice League was a 4-hour-long film that was cut to 2 exactly.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, and it sucked. And then when you watch the 4-hour version, you're like, I could cut out about 30 minutes and that'd be fine.
I still never saw the Snyder cut.
It's good.
Although I did see a side-by-side of the final.
You know, it's the biggest thing that I do not like Zack Snyder. I think most of his films are terrible, and I like that cut.
Too bad.
It's too bad he is so bad at making movies. He is a very nice, authentic guy, though. And that's why he keeps getting work, because he's a genuinely nice guy.
That's good. Oh, he made Rebel Moon.
Yeah. He is not good at making movies. For some reason, Justice League actually was pretty good. 300 was okay. Dawn of the Dead is probably his best movie. Okay.
I'm going through his filmography.
Sucker Punch sucks. I don't care for anyone that pretends. You know, he has like the worst fan base. They are disgusting rat people. I'm sorry. I'm gonna make you a lot of enemies with that statement, Jesse. Really? You're probably gonna want to cut that one out. Yeah.
Okay.
I just realized that.
I'll put that. I'll clip that and make it its own 20-second YouTube.
Gosh dang it! No, Zack Snyder fans are effing insane. They're literally the worst fan base.
Really?
Like, yes.
Or did they go after someone you like James Gunn or whatever?
They do, but that's not the point. They're toxic just in general. Like, for example, the Oscars allow poll voting for what the public thought was like the best film of the year, as well as the best moments in all of film history. Number one was effing War. What was the zombie movie? It was the War of the Dead or whatever movie, and that was Zack Snyder's film that year. And then the Oscars like, what the f is this? This is a terrible movie. It is a terrible movie. Then number one moment, like number two was like the Matrix Neo scene where he dodges the bullets.
Oh yeah.
Number one is the effing Flash time travel scene in effing Justice League, and it's like, what is wrong with these people? They effing raided their Twitter or whatever and pulled that crap out of their butts. It's like they're effing full of crap.
Okay, this is definitely being a clip.
They effing have the worst effing opinions out of everyone.
I don't know enough to comment, man. I don't think I've seen like any of them.
But I care deeply about this because f you guys. These Zack Snyder fans are horrible.
So, in the rankings, what are other terrible fans?
I don't think about that often. I can name notably toxic fan bases. For example, Undertale's fan base is not the healthiest for sure. They've given the game a bad reputation because of their own toxic behavior, because of their demanding people play it a certain way. And they actually, the creator himself had to clarify when he made Deltarune that he himself was worried that they would take it the wrong way because it uses similar characters, that they would think that it overrides their ending, that they don't like the idea of the ending being ruined, so he had to clarify crap with that. So that fan base is not that good. Other bad fan bases, I would say Sonic fans pre the movies are pretty bad.
That's
in terms
game
of like their
of some sort.
The Sonic franchise, you know?
Yeah, well, I don't know much about
Hedgehog guy, the blue hedgehog.
Yeah, no,
They are for people who are chronically online. Sonic fans were they're effing disgusting, and they're very genuinely gross. And the artwork they make is really effed. It's really bad, and they're wrong. Five Nights at Freddy's has a pretty okay, and I'll take that back. They're okay. But like they have a similar debauchery issue that Sonic fans do, which is equally disturbing, even despite the fact that the game is for kids, which amplifies it being just as bad. Trying to think of other fan bases that are horrible.
Oh, I wanted to ask you the other day, what is Genshin Impact, and why do I always hear people like make fun of it or make fun of people who?
Genshin Impact is kind of like it's a mobile game that can be played on PlayStation as well. It has similar gameplay to Zelda Breath of the Wild in terms of like traversal. It is a gacha game, meaning that you pay to get a chance of unlocking characters that have unique backstories. It is a live as service game, meaning it's all constantly evolving world. It is immensely popular. Their fan base is constantly nominated for Game of the Year by the public, even though the game is like effing 6-something years old now. The Genshin Impact is also made by China, a company, and it is massive because of them. And even like the Game Awards here, they announced like 3 more Genshin-like clones, and they're their own effing worlds of like attractive men and women that you just stare at, and they're really weird over there, and they spend crap tons of money to try to get the chance of earning a character.
Okay. Does it have like a lot of like sexualized stuff or sexualized characters or cosplayers?
I would consider it sexualized. Okay. I would say that, they definitely would want to, for sure. Zenless Zone Zero is another great example that came out last year, where it's like very over sexualized. One of my people I play with, I shouldn't name names. Never mind. I won't do that.
Okay.
So like, there's another one called Star Rail Honkai, or Honkai Star Rail. I mean, that also kind of feels like it's in that vein and stuff. They're games where obviously they're massively popular, and they make large amounts of money by cheating their players. Because the difference between microtransactions and gacha is at least you pay for what you get, but with gacha you're like gambling, and it's actual gambling for digital goods of all things that have no actual monetary value.
Does it have legal constraints? Like, do some people want to ban it or whatever?
No, it's not really bannable because you always get something, and it's not the same as loot boxes because you can't transaction it for real stuff. CSGO had a massive controversy because that was very common to do, and that's still an underground thing right now. And obviously Star Wars Battlefront 2, the problem there was people paying and you're getting useless crap, and you're not getting like Darth Vader or whatever. And it's different from those. And I'm not necessarily sure why. I guess it's more transparent about it. People understand gacha is kind of also, the bigger thing is that gacha, you can earn it over time. And there are differences from my understanding. I've only played Genshin Impact because it is free, and that's how they get you, is the games are initially free. I tried it for a little bit. It's actually perfectly fine. I think it's a pretty cool game. It had no staying power for me personally, but obviously it's very easy on the eyes for a lot of people. And it's like, I imagine the story is pretty good because it's an ever evolving world. It's like World of Warcraft. It's like the same logic.
Okay. I don't know much about that either.
Oh, you know what? It would be funny. I say World of Warcraft. World of Warcraft is like the famous one for being the most toxic community. Actually,
really?
Yeah,
I know. I saw the movie.
Not toxic because they're bitter people so much as they're just obscenely unhealthy lifestyle, like ruining their lives. That's just been true that's a true thing about World of Warcraft, is the amount of time you dedicate to it
really
is intense. It's a big deal. There's a lot of people who lost their lives over it. They treat it way too seriously and stuff. Yeah, World of Warcraft is something. It's not as popular in modern day because obviously people have moved on. But it was a big. What was interesting is that there was a glitch during a dungeon that gives you a virus, and that virus carried over with the pets that people had, and it got into the hub world across all the servers. So now you have this virus that comes in close contact when you get in close contact with people, and was the data they got from that was used for the real world for applications for things like pandemics and COVID and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's so realistic. And it was like, wow, that was just from a glitch. Cool. Let's hope that doesn't happen in the real world. Thank you. And it's like, yeah, it's very World of Warcraft's very interesting. The other one that obviously is considered weirdly toxic is Magic the Gathering, which I have personally avoided that. And I don't think I'm really capable of fully comprehending it, even though I play Magic the Gathering a lot myself.
Yeah.
For some reason, there is a serious issue with people just being effing disgusting. And they are unhealthy and very, very obese because they're probably sitting down for some reason all the time playing cards. I don't know why that's a problem. And they have a serious deodorant problem. It literally became so bad that during tournaments, they made it a new official rule that you must have deodorant and you must smell appropriate. And people freak the F out over that.
That's funny.
There's a lot of not necessarily controversies, but talkable things that have happened in Magic the Gathering. Obviously, if you there's a lot of interesting stories about, because Magic cards are valuable, and if you steal them from someone, then you have to go explain this to police and try and legitimize this stuff. That stuff's pretty effing funny. And obviously, these idiots who steal people's cards are going to go to the nearest magic shop, effing their nerd store, and they get caught almost immediately every single time because they're effing stupid.
There's a whole underground market for Magic the Gathering cards?
No, I'm saying that it's really difficult to do that, actually. Okay. But it's something that people constantly try.
Yeah. So interesting. I guess
I have cards that are worth a lot of money, and it's you can casually just get loads of money very easily from Magic. There's some fun controversy. It's kind of its own world because obviously it's a very long game. It's like a sport. It's like how many controversies can you name in soccer? You know?
Yeah. Okay.
There's
Well, the
there's some
dogs
fun
are
ones.
the dogs are going crazy upstairs.
Oh, they heard about my magic news.
They're like howling. I wonder if
One of the more legitimately really ugly controversies is not even a player experience. It was Magic the Gathering themselves. In the lore, there's a very elaborate lore to Magic the Gathering and stuff. And there's these two characters. They were both women, and a lot of people were thought,
wait, sorry,
they're
let me
obvious.
check on the dogs. I don't know if you can hear them, but I'm let's see.
Yes. It'd be funny if you recorded yourself getting robbed. I think you have my magic cards. They're probably freaking out because they're mad about the Nissa and Chandra controversy.